All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Play Choices podcast, a podcast you hear. I am your host, RJ. Welcome to the very first episode of our podcast. I'm probably going to add in some audience clapping in post because it's taken a lot of fucking hard work to get here. Please make sure you're clapping on your end because I think we all deserve an applause. Thank you. That was the most unenthusiastic clap I've ever heard in my life. Okay. We're going to spend this episode discussing the chapter releases from the week of April 29th in 2019. This episode is not spoiler safe, unlike the introduction episode, so if you want to avoid any spoilers for any particular book, please refer to the timestamps that I'm going to be providing in the comments and in the description of the video. We have a lot of content I want to get to about this week's chapters, but first I need to introduce my co-host, or maybe you want to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone on the subreddit. I'm Kyle. My username is just straight up Kyle Davies. Nice to see everyone, and I hope you enjoy the podcast.
Wow, you're much better at this than I am. That was very professional. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
All right, are you ready to talk about the ups and downs of this week's chapter releases?
Sure.
There are a lot of ups, mostly downs, I think, in my opinion. We're going to start talking about Wishful Thinking Chapter 4, which is titled Good Idea. For those who do not want to hear any spoilers about Wishful Thinking, specifically Chapter 4, please refer to the timestamps to a different book, because you're going to be very disappointed if you hear spoilers. All right. So instead of just referring to the main character as MC, I don't want to do that this entire podcast, so I just went back and found what the default name that the app gave us for the MC. So the MC's name is Lydia Gibson, so we're going to be referring to her as Lydia, just for your reference, Kyle, and the listener's reference. Chapter 4 from Wishful Thinking pretty much just picks off after you told Jamie that you can read minds. Jamie is like really surprisingly okay with it. Like, I think he picks it up like really fast and just kind of accepts it that it's a thing, which I think is incredibly weird. I don't know about you.
You probably just thought it was just like, you know, a lifelong friend and just think it's super cool that they have like this sort of superpower essentially. So.
Okay, but and maybe this is too harsh. But like, if I had a friend, it doesn't matter how close they are. Like, I just met them, we've been childhood friends, whatever. If I had a friend and I learned that they could now read minds, I think I would have to stop that friendship.
Yeah. Well, I think if we go back to the previous chapter before that, when she initially told Jamie about her superpower, he wasn't, he didn't believe it either. He was like, yeah, you lost
he was
me.
like, he was like, oh, I'm not with this. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, they were in the middle of a walk when the last chapter ended, and then when this chapter began, they were like in front of her dad's house. So I guess there could have been like some time that transpired between when he found out and when they arrived, where maybe he was okay with it. But I just don't think I could continue that friendship because there's no like element of like privacy anymore.
Yeah.
That would piss me off.
It definitely changes the whole, dynamic of.
It changes the dynamic
of everything, really.
Yes. Especially since Jamie definitely loves the main character.
Yeah.
Like, and I think, like, later on throughout the chapter, I think he literally has a line where he's like, oh my god, I hope she's not reading my mind.
Exactly, yeah, he does.
I don't think I could deal with that. Jamie's a trooper for putting up with that. Because there's no way I could.
That's understandable. It's one of those things where, it doesn't happen. So, like...
Yeah, you're like, how would I react to this? But I think I'd have a stronger reaction than Jamie. But I mean, maybe that's why he's the ideal love interest in this book, perhaps. For some people.
Potentially.
Who knows? He's just super understanding. I wonder how understanding the rest of the characters are going to be when they find that out. Or if they're going to accept it as quickly.
Jamie seems like just from early on, because we've only had, a couple chapters into the book, He just seems just a straight up cool guy, just chill, relax, nothing, really popping yet. But hopefully we'll get to, figure out more of his character later on, and maybe even within Monday's chapter.
Yeah. And I think also, I don't know, I get the feeling Jamie is like, I guess like most childhood best friends would be, is like hyper attached to the main character, because I think like he has a line during this chapter where he talks about how like Lydia was a huge part of him feeling at home whenever he found out he was adopted and stuff. So like he could be like hyper attached to her, where he's like, it doesn't matter what you do, like if you kill someone, like I'll help you bury the body or something kind of friendship.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't think I could deal with it. I think like the only way that I could maintain a relationship with someone like that is if it was like someone I had to be with, like my mom. Like if my mom revealed to me she could read my mind. I'd be like, I guess that's okay. I mean, I don't know. My mom kind of already knows how to read my mind anyways, so I feel like that's actually pretty true. Jamie has this wonderful idea that you two should go to a diner the next morning and use your power to help some strangers out, which I don't know in a real life scenario how that would work, but in the book, you end up kind of eavesdropping on the thoughts of two estranged siblings who got estranged because the sister did not like the brother's gift for her. This is kind of just like, to me, like a very trolly plot. I think every single time I play Wishful Thinking on Monday mornings, I always feel like I'm being trolled because it's just like the silliest little book I've read.
Yeah, and it makes sense for this scenario because, it's just these two people with their own little disagreement with each other. And I thought it was honestly pretty cool that Jamie wanted to push forward with having, your main character use their power for good, essentially, and fix, mistakes.
Yeah, it's a very, like, low risk kind of scenario.
Yeah.
Because it's strangers, so it's like, let's just try this out and see if it actually works outside of the context of her job. I wonder if, like, in the future we're going to have to do this, but it's going to be, like, higher risk. Because so far we've only seen Lydia, like, use her powers in terms of, like, an investigation, like, news reporter kind of format.
Yeah.
So I wonder how often we're going to be able to see her use it outside of her job. And, like, how she chooses to deal with it in the public.
I think this is just one of those situations where, like, since it was discovered early on, and, like I said earlier, this is still early on in the book, we're just figuring out, like, Lydia was able to read minds, and she just casually read minds, and Jamie essentially is making her have a use for it, and even though it's, like, a small thing, it's just, something to have, like, perspective about of what she can do with this sort of power.
Yeah. I'd like to see how this evolves. I think it's interesting that Jamie had, like, a suggestion in the first place. So I wonder, like, how he's going to push her to use it in the future. Like, if that's going to continue to be an aspect of their friendship now that he's discovered this superpower that she has.
I think we figure out more of that. Like, we'll discuss this later on with Wishful Thinking, but I think we figure out Jamie trying to have our main character use our power when we're in the library, when we have that story to cover.
Did he actually bring that up? Did he bring up that you could use your mind reading powers in the library?
Well, when they were trying to find the missing book and they brought up all the people involved with the situation, he mentioned to talk to them about it and, see what she can do essentially to figure out this whole thing, because those people didn't want to talk to Jamie to begin with, so
Gotcha.
They're already sketchy and hiding something from them.
Yeah, I guess I totally missed that when he said it. I thought he was just like, go bother them. I didn't realize that he was referring to using her powers, but yeah, that makes sense. So anyways, later after this entire scene at the diner, Jamie tells you that he wants you to cover a fundraiser that's happening at the library that he does some work for, and he wants you to use that footage to get a feature on the news for them. So you go to your boss, get approval for the feature, and then afterwards in the hallway you bump into Aubrey, who very lovely gives you his entire fucking screenplay to read. And it is a big one from the text. I mean, he literally lobs what is like essentially a brick of paper at you. Um, I guess what are your opinions about Aubrey, like as a character? Do you like him?
Um, I really can't make like an opinion on a character until maybe, I don't know, 8 chapters in. But as of right now, I'm just like neutral with him. I don't really think he's like either annoying or, oh, I love this character. It's just one of those things where as time progresses and we read more chapters, I'll probably have more of an opinion. But as of right now, I think Aubrey's just, just this guy at your work. And, obviously he's going to be one of the love interests. And he's just involved.
I don't like him.
And why is that?
I,
Do you think that he's creepy or?
no, I don't think he's creepy. I don't like. I know, like in the earlier chapters, like when he showed up to the hospital and he was like, I admire her." Like I know some people were saying that he was creepy. I just think he has an office crush, and like
Yeah.
that's it.
I thought it was
The
weird how like during chapter 1, your friends, like your coworkers say oh, Aubrey is talking to you. He's the coolest guy around. And then, like, as the book keeps progressing, like, almost, I think every chapter so far, Aubrey's talked to us. So, I don't know. I just thought that was
yeah,
weird.
it was just weird. I don't know, man. I definitely feel like it was definitely made like a huge deal, but it could be just because like it's very obvious that he's had a crush on you for a while. So he's probably just using this as an opportunity to like I mean, I don't know if I really want. I was going to say something. I don't know if I entirely agree with it anymore. I mean, for sure he wants to get closer to Lydia, but also
Yep.
there's that whole conflict of, them working very closely with each other. If you played like the diamond scene I'm about to bring up, um he literally thinks, and Lydia can read his mind when he says this, that he shouldn't like make a move on her because they work together. So I think it's one of those like office romance kind of conflict where it's like I want to do something but I can't possibly do something, but also I mean it's just the nature of their job that they work together. So I think that's a part of it too, is like she got promoted, so that's also a reason why he's talking to her, because prior when she was just a writer, like she was a writer, right? She was a writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, prior when she was just a writer, he never really had anything to do with her position. So that could be a part of it. I just think it's annoying that, like, okay, I get it. There's, like, this whole theme in the book about Lydia and Aubrey being two characters who, like, lack the background of education for the dreams that they have. Like, Lydia has the imposter syndrome of not really feeling like she deserves to be a reporter because she didn't, like, have any background in it. And Aubrey really wants to write a screenplay and be involved in that type of art, even though he doesn't really have any history in his career in it. And I think that is an important theme. I'm putting myself in the shoes of Lydia,
Sure.
who's just a girl who's minding her own business and is trying to be the best reporter she can. And then the guy who is helping you, trying to make sure you do a good job, hands you a giant fucking screenplay, and that just seems like my actual nightmare. Because I don't want to read your shitty screenplay. I mean, I don't know. It might be good, you know. We haven't had, maybe next chapter Lydia's gonna sit down and read it, and she's like, "Oh, this is actually amazing." But the typical person who hands you a screenplay, it's not gonna be good.
Yeah. Well, who
And
knows though? Maybe down the line we're gonna see either improvement or maybe his work's actually good enough, and then maybe when Red Carpet Diaries Book 3 releases, we might get some sort of cameo with
oh my
Aubrey, which would
god,
be cool. I
I
love
would love
seeing
that.
cameos of just like characters from other books. I think that's one of the better things
Damn,
about
like
the
between the time of the end of Wishful Thinking, and Red Carpet Diaries is coming out soon too. Is
yeah.
it not? It's coming out this summer.
Hmm.
Well, I'm gonna be looking forward to that now. We need to send an email to Pixelberry because I need to I need for Aubrey to get so good, because that's the only reason why I would ever read a screenplay. Like to me, I guess I'm just imagining myself of like this guy, because I don't like Aubrey that much. Like to me, he's not that he's a bad guy. I just view him as like kind of a dork, and not in like a cute way. Like
Yeah.
there's there's ways to be a dork in a cute way. I just don't think Aubrey's it. So I'm not really that attracted to him. It's like some guy that I don't really like who very obviously has a crush on you. And then he bumps into you and just has happened to like carry his binder full of his screenplay and hands it to you. And then like when you read his mind, he's like, "Oh, I bet I'm going to have so many notes." And I'm like, "Ugh, the amount of effort you really want me to put into this is annoying." But that's just me. Maybe I'm being too harsh. It just sounds like my actual nightmare. So there is a diamond option to go to Aubrey's home and watch movies that he made as a kid, which is just like a cute little fluffer filler piece. I didn't really make a lot of notes about it. The only thing that I thought was like kind of creepy and a little bit concerning, this is written into the book, is that there is an opportunity. Okay, let me provide some background. So one of his movies is inspired by a TV show that the name of the TV show's name is Cuties. And he thinks about this. And specifically the thought is like, oh, that particular part was inspired by Cuties, but it's such an obscure reference and like she's probably never seen the show.
Yeah.
And your character hears that. And then the next dialogue option is for Lydia to say, oh yeah, that movie reminds me of Cuties. Which is just, it's so creepy. And I hate that that's a part of the chapter. Because it's just gross. Like, the idea that... I mean, I understand that's, like, a part of, like, the ethical dilemma of being able to read people's minds is, like, what you do with that, what you do with that information. But it's just so gross. Like, the idea that that could happen and you're like, I'm gonna lie about the fact that I know about this TV show to make you think that I also like it. I don't know if you actually, like, paid for that diamond scene.
No, I'm actually, like, since you brought it up, this is the first time that I'm actually, like, figuring out what the diamond scene was really about. And that is kind of off-putting.
That's super off-putting, and I hate that they made it a part of the book. And, like, I hate that, like, there's no ethical dilemma.
Yeah.
Like, Lydia not once during that scene questions, like, oh, should I mention that? Should I say something like that? So I feel like sometimes you'll get, like, your character's thoughts to themselves in, like, parentheses before you actually make a decision. But, like, the book didn't even make you question, like, the ethical implications of reading his mind and then using that information to appeal to, like, seem more relatable to him. Which is, it really weirded me out. It was super off-putting. Like, I was watching the scene, and even though I'm not, like, a fan of Aubrey, like, I don't necessarily find him appealing. I was like, that's very rude and manipulative. And it's just hard. I guess it's just hard for me to look at Lydia as like a good person after knowing that that was even a choice that you could provide.
I think that kind of factors into with the situation with the story in the library when they're talking to the workers at the library, they're just kind of manipulating the information they get in their head against them in a way, depending on your choices that you pick.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess it's like, it's one of those dilemmas, like, are you using the power for good or for evil?
Yeah,
I think with, like, trying to find the stolen thing.
In both, I think throughout we're probably going to get, both sides where she's going to be using it for good, and then there's going to be times where she's going to have to use it for evil. Granted, we really haven't gotten the worst out of it yet, but we're bound to see it, I imagine.
I guess it's just, I wonder, like, if that's going to be something that we do consistently throughout our LIs. I don't think Jamie...
it makes it seem like it is. Like, and I just feel like that's the intent in which they're trying to go for.
Yeah, I wonder if, like... Especially, I can see it happening with, like, Aubrey, because I think that's, like... I don't really know if we have, like, a quote-unquote forced LI, like if there's one that the book is trying to make you pick, but I think out of all of them, Jamie's probably the one you need to manipulate the least because you already know a lot about him.
Yeah.
And it seems like the flirting that's happening between them is like supernatural. Not supernatural as in like ghosts and wolves. Like very natural. They don't like, there's not a ton that needs to occur in order for the chemistry between them to exist. Whereas it seems like there's going to have to be more work to get the romance between Lydia and Aubrey kind of going in the right direction. So I wonder if that's going to be a plot point, like if at some point one of the LIs is going to figure out that they've been lying to them and reading their minds to seem like more relatable or to make their relationship better. It really stuck out to me. I feel like the book didn't make that big of a deal about it, but I thought it was really creepy.
Yeah. No, I
But
can understand that.
maybe I was the only one who noticed it. Also, I'm not sure how many people played the diamond option, so I'm not sure how many people actually like know that that was a thing that happened in the chapter. So, later on, you arrive at the library. Jamie tells you that the library is missing a thing called a folio, which is a word I've never heard before this week, so that was nice, new vocabulary added. And then you have to launch an entire investigation to find it. I didn't really find... I guess it was more of like a humorous piece, because you're literally chasing like a stranger out of the library, and he has no idea what's going on.
Yeah, but I thought it was very cool, though, with some of the options you were able to take in terms of trying to pursue him. Because I had Lydia just run across the table, just like charging like a badass, and then you had your camera guy just taking it all in, and I just knew it was going to be the featured story after that one.
I'm not sure if you've ever seen that meme of like how fast cameramen are.
I don't think I have. I might have.
Oh my god! Like just watch like any I'm trying to think like any Maury show, like when a woman finds out that the person she's accusing of being the baby daddy of her child is not the baby daddy, and then she starts running towards the back, and the cameraman is like Usain Bolt running after her. I don't know what it is, but like cameramen on any TV show or news network are have the best cardio I've ever seen. And like the fact that Tony could keep up with Lydia during that scene is just outrageous. It's believable because I've seen it before.
Yeah.
But I love everything about cameramen who are chasing people. It's just so funny to me because you probably have like what is like 50 pounds of camera equipment on your back and you're running after someone. I just think that's the funniest shit ever. Charlie Carmichael, who is the politician that Anna works for, makes a speech at the library, and Anna's there. I don't know if I really thought there was anything super noteworthy about the scene other than, like, Anna was there, which was my main thing I was very happy about, because I love Anna. I think she's great. I'm not usually super into, like, the female love interest. I don't think I'm going to end up, like, romancing her throughout the book. I just want her to be my best friend. I think she's like an amazingly written character. I think it's awesome that she dedicates so much of her time to her career. I love a lot of the one-liners that she has in the book. I love like the conflict of her saying that she's like works all the time. She doesn't have any time for herself. So there's like cute little moments you can steal with her where you are able to take her away from her job. I just brought that up to say that I love Anna.
I'd say Anna's my favorite character so far in Wishful Thinking because mainly because her character is unique compared to every other female character that we've had in past books. And like her character just seems, like I said earlier, just unique because how she's able to really just be herself. And if someone ever tries to like diminish her character, like with her interview with Ellen in chapter 2, she was able to, basically counter every point that Ellen was making against her and just make Ellen look like a fool. And I just thought that was very, very neat because you never really see characters stand up for themselves in that sort of way. And it just, I don't know, it just interested me at least.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when you see, and I don't want to say specifically female allies, but just like some characters in general who are getting fussed out by like an antagonist or something, they usually have an option like step in and defend them. And that's something that you can, it may be free, it may be a diamond option, but it's something that where it's like you have to step in for them, whereas like Anna doesn't require that.
And I think that's really awesome. Cool. Yeah, I think that's amazing because it just shows, the confidence in their character and that they don't need someone to protect them. They can do it themselves, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, I really love Anna. I just think she's very relatable. Is my thing. I think a lot of times, like, I look at female allies and I don't feel, like, super connected to them. Or I just don't see, like, the point of their character outside of being a female ally option. A lot of times it feels like the female love interests are just kind of tacked on as, like, a we did it. We added her.
Yeah.
You got a girl to bang if you want one. But, like, Anna
At your
has,
choosing.
Anna has, like, a full-fledged personality that I just really love about her. And I just like seeing her.
Yeah, I'm very
in each
excited
chapter.
to see, especially with next week's chapter, to actually see more of Anna, potentially.
Yeah, I really hope that she doesn't just, like, pop in and out. She's not in, like, every other chapter. I'd like to see her become a little bit more, useful. But yeah, I guess, like, given the fact of the plot of next week's chapter, we probably will be seeing her more.
Yeah, and I hope it's like not one of those things where she's in and out. I really would want to see her more consistently. Granted, given the situation, it may not seem that way, but I'd like to see her more just because I'd love to get to know her character more and just get more background about her.
Yeah, I'd like for her to be an actual part of the plot.
Yeah.
Rather than just being a background character, because I think her personality is so good. Like, to me, she's just such a well-developed character. Like, a lot of times some of these more background love interests are super one-dimensional, as in there's only like one significant factor of their personality that the main character pays attention to or notices, and that is like their entire identity. But for Anna, I think she's a very well-developed, full-fledged character. She deserves better than just popping in and out, because I think we've only seen her, twice out of the 4 chapters, and those scenes have been, like, relatively short compared to the rest of the book. I mean, I guess there have been diamond... I'm sure there was a diamond option, I think, in an earlier chapter where you could have lunch with her or something.
Yeah, there was. Yeah. I'm just hoping it's just not one of those things where, like, kind of referring to the heist Monaco with Sonia, like, she was very in and out, like, throughout the book. So, and I just hope that's just not the case with Anna.
Yeah, it's that way with, like, every single female ally. It's the curse, and, like, it just sucks because we have so much of, like Aubrey, we have non-diamond scenes with him. Jamie, we have non-diamond scenes with him. But it just feels like every single time there's a female love interest, any substantial conversation you have with them is, like, paywalled, which is annoying.
It's like they knew that when writing this, Anna was going to be, like, this awesome character, so they're trying to, like, push her away from us unless we want to pay for her.
Yeah, they're like, you want a girl that's actually interesting?
This is what you gotta do.
We made this amazing character that is, like, very career focused, funny, sassy, just, like, fun to talk to, could be, like, a great best friend, and she's hot. Yeah, you gotta pay, like, 13 diamonds to go out to lunch with her. And meanwhile, Aubrey's fucking slamming his screenplay into our chest for free. Oh my god. Okay. So speaking of next chapter, Alec told Lydia and Ellen that they're going to be interviewing Anna's boss, Charlie Carmichael, which I'm sure is just going to go swell.
Yeah, it's gonna be bumpy, to say the least.
I'm sure it's going to be
It'll be good for us, but it'll be bumpy for Lydia.
Yeah. I'm really expecting, like, a lot of antics. Like, I want Alec to just be his usual asshole self, like, trying to be, like, the referee between Lydia and Ellen. I see Aubrey being the referee between Lydia and Ellen. I see Lydia potentially using... Again, this is where the morality question pops up for her mind-reading powers. Like, is Lydia gonna be fair and not use her mind-reading powers? Is she gonna use it to sabotage Ellen in any way? To try to make her look bad? I don't know.
How I see it, like, since it's early on, I would kind of use your mind-reading powers to your advantage, because technically where she's at, like, in her position, like, in her workplace, she's already at a disadvantage, and she's trying to work herself up to be what she wants to be fully, you know? So, I don't know, we'll see. Maybe it will be an option.
All right. Do you have any last thoughts you want to say to wrap up Wishful Thinking Chapter 4?
No, I think that's everything. I'm just hoping Alec does bring some antics, because that guy is funny.
God, I fucking love Alec. He is underappreciated. He is underappreciated, I think. And just fully not in the book enough. Alright, that's all that we have as far as commentary for this chapter. So the spoilers for Wishful Thinking are now ending. You have been warned that we are entering the spoilers for a new book, and that is High School Story, Class Act, Book 2, Chapter 12, called Planting New Seeds. The spoilers are starting now. Again, we are steering away from just using, like, MC and, like, MC's twin. So the MC's default name in this book is Bailey. The twin's name is Casey. So that's how we're going to refer to them. I'll be honest, I don't really have a lot of comments for this chapter. I feel like there wasn't a ton of plot, and of what plot there was, it was very repetitive of previous chapters. So I think this section's going to be short, unless you have a lot to say, Kyle, because I don't.
I'll see where we go, but yeah, we might be in the same boat.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to take that long to discuss this. All right, so this chapter opens up with the emergency meeting where the entire crew needs to decide who's going to drop out of the school election, because it's either Casey or it's going to be Rory. The two of them cannot beat Lorenzo by themselves. And, of course, in classic fashion, it's up to Bailey to decide who's going to drop out of the election. Who did you pick to to be in the election?
I chose Casey to continue running, and I had Rory step down, just because during my playthrough of the book, I have Rory as my love interest because they had that forced down our throat basically in book 1. So I just thought it made more sense, and I kind of felt like I'd rather have, my ally with me and just have my twin do the more schoolwork stuff. That was my whole thought process around that.
So you're being selfish.
Yeah, exactly.
You're exactly. Like, I need more time with my girlfriend/boyfriend. I see that. I picked Rory. I fucking hate Casey. I'm tired. I am tired of Casey. This entire time, Rory does kind of get mad at you a little bit throughout this book, but I think Casey is just truly so obnoxious, with the whole, you're my twin, so you have to be on my side. I hate that.
Yeah, I thought it was very, throughout the whole book until up to this point, it was just like your main character's just put in this awkward situation throughout the whole time, and it's not his or her fault. It's just almost being forced upon them, so it was definitely
awful.
Yeah, it was definitely awful.
And plus, I just don't really care about sports. I don't want to say that they're not important. I don't want to say that they're not important, because I do think that, sports should be a focus in, school curriculums, because it definitely helps some people. But, if you're giving me the ultimate decision to choose between, what I find more interesting in high school, I was not an athlete in high school. That is one thing I definitely was not. And I just find the kind of the arts platform that Rory was going for more entertaining in my end, and I've just found Rory in general less annoying than my twin throughout this entire book. So
what was crazy? During my playthrough, when we had the diamond scenes to either help out Rory or Casey, depending on which one you wanted to choose, I always picked Rory, and I wanted Rory to be the person that was ultimately going to win the election. But then, since now we got this thrown at us in which we got to choose who to be in it or not, I literally just changed my complete direction of what I wanted to go with.
That's right. I totally forgot about that. Literally, they made you pick all these things, and it doesn't even matter, because you can pick whichever one.
Yeah.
But then it's confusing, because at the end of each chapter, they show you, the stars that each contestant has. Because you weren't helping Casey the entire time, does that mean that, your twin's rating is, low? Do you remember?
I don't know. It's weird how the system works now, because either way, how they want you to perceive it as is whoever you choose is just going to be behind Lorenzo, so.
Yeah, because I've been helping Rory this entire time, and Rory had 4 stars and Lorenzo had 5.
Yeah.
Huh. God, you're right. I guess all of our choices in the previous chapters don't really matter.
Yeah, it's definitely weird how that went about, but.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Something I did not notice.
Sorry to have you have your eyes open to this disaster.
I'm disillusioned. I feel duped. Like, I feel like I spent all this time fucking backing Rory and it didn't matter.
Got betrayed.
Shit.
Betrayed by Pixelberry.
I could have been helping Casey this whole time, and then like Casey would have never yelled at me, and then I wouldn't have had to have this like weird conflict in my own house where my twin won't speak to me. And it didn't even matter. God, that's upsetting. All right, I'm gonna move past that because I'm a little upset right now. We're in classic fashion for the rest of this book. It doesn't matter like who you pick to win because it takes them about 2 seconds before they actually start arguing again, which is normal, I suppose, and what we should be expecting for the rest of this book. What chapter is this? This is chapter 12, so we have approximately 4 more chapters of this shit.
Yeah, potentially 4, either more or less, give or take.
I swear to... This better not go past 16. Because I
don't
cannot
think
do
it
4
will,
more
based
chapters.
on... Just based on history of, like, all the high school storybooks, I think the most has been 16 chapters, and then, if anything, it's just been less.
Well, they
So,
don't
if
even
anything,
have...
that's something to hang on to.
They don't even have enough plot
Yeah,
to fill up more than 4.
I hated the fact that the election was going to be the plot for this book, especially since we were like hinted at it early on. I just knew it wasn't going to be as good as, they expected, I guess. But, you just have to go with it.
Well, because it's just a super drawn out, and I don't know, maybe... I feel like as an adult, like, I know this isn't that big of a deal, but I also understand, like, when you're in high school, this feels like a huge deal, so maybe it's just me, like, rolling my eyes, being like, ugh, fucking kids, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just me being, like, annoying and rolling my eyes, but it just really has not been the most entertaining plot, in my opinion. The rest of this chapter, again, is, like, more like filler fluff, like, you have a scene where you can go take AJ to take him to a support group for divorced parents, which I thought was cute as someone who had, like, a divorce in my family. I think the advice they give is good, but it doesn't really contribute to the overall plot other than, like, character development for AJ realizing that he's not, like, the only one going through his parents' divorce. So I think that's a cute scene.
It surprises me how, and I think a lot of people would agree with this, it surprises me how we're now, I know this is, like, for AJ's side of thing, and, like, I'm glad we're getting, like, some sort of development with his character and his family or whatnot. But I thought, if anything, we would get more on the side of Sky's, like, family and stuff like that. Because I remember there was a lot of posts about, we gotta defend Sky, like, protect her at all costs based on her situation, And I, like, even though I don't really like this series in general, I agree with them on that because, I don't know, I just thought it was... Like, I rather would have that as the main plot point than the election. Like, that's how much more interesting, like, Sky's actual dilemma is. But,
well, Sky's character development really dropped off after book 1. Because
it's very disappointing.
Yeah, like, the only thing that she's been useful for is, like, being, like, stop fighting about the election.
Yeah, literally, like, the mediator of the whole thing.
That's the only thing. Like, she's the only person who has been very loud about the fact that she thinks the entire thing is pointless, and that's her entire plot point. Like, I'm sure her family life is still, like, an absolute mess, but yeah, I agree with you. I think that is, like, more compelling, but it doesn't seem like they're focusing on that at all.
Yeah, and then you also have, like, Clint and Graham, which I don't know how you felt about Clint and Natalie in book 1. Like, it didn't seem like they were very well perceived, but the fact that now they have, like, this almost kind of like this side story with Clint and his potential love interest, depending on if you spend diamonds or not, Graham, I just find that pointless as well, because it's like, I don't know, like, Clint's not really, like, he's a part of your group, but he's not part of, like, the main group that deals with, like, the whole issues for the most part. So I just think that's just kind of like a wasted project added on to the main story. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, just as a general rule, I don't pay diamonds to set people up.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't care about Clint. I don't care about Natalie. In fact, I pretty much dislike them. I don't know if I hate them, but I just think they're, like, the annoying, like, fangirls of the theater group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So I don't really see the point in them as characters other than to just have some like silly dialogue. I forgot that he had a thing going on. I'm not paying for it. He's going to be single at the end of this book cuz I'm just not paying for it.
Likewise, likewise.
I don't give a shit about his love life. Especially since like on all of book 1 he was coming for Rory, which is my man. You need to leave him alone.
Yeah.
So, the teaser for next book is that Emerald, that I guess she's like a TV host, social media influencer. She basically is just like a famous celebrity that vouches for going green, which I think is cool. I'm a fan of her. Do you think the event is gonna go well next chapter?
I don't know. I think it really depends on the choices that's going to be made during the next chapter and potentially like a diamond, like paywall sort of thing. That's going to really indicate whether or not the event's actually going to end up going well for you or not.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and go, no, it's not gonna go well. I mean, I don't know. I feel like this book is going to end with Lorenzo dropping out of the race, to be honest.
Yeah, because, I don't know, it wouldn't surprise me if that's the case, but then you know how weird that'd be? Like, you start off with these 5 candidates, and then literally every single, like, you get your winner, whether it's Rory or Casey, and the reason why she wins is because all 4 of them drop out. Like, that's just crazy to me. It's like, this whole thing was worth nothing.
I just feel like that's where it's going to go because I can't imagine that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if this event's going to be like enough to boost up like the ranking of whoever you choose, whether it's Rory or Casey. I just don't know if it's going to be enough. I mean, I would assume if you brought a freaking celebrity to school, it might. And the celebrity actually had an impact on the school, I think it might, but I have no idea. Or he might just end up losing.
He's either gonna drop out or he's gonna lose it based on the success of Monday's event.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't really care that much.
I hope they get caught though, because like since it was staged, I just think it's kind of scummy how they feel like they can essentially cheat their way to the top. So I would again, I'm not really fond of Amber or Lorenzo to begin with, so you know it'd be cool to see them get caught with their actions and just have them be uncomfortable.
Yeah, I really don't know because we don't have any evidence, so I don't know how that's gonna come out.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, when I think it was during lunch, like during one of the previous chapters, your main character talks to Lorenzo, and he brings up stupidly how it was like staged, and then when your main character calls him out on it, he's like he plays stupid even more. So I don't know, he may or may not screw himself over in the process. Well,
I hope he does.
yeah,
That'd probably be like the thing I would laugh the hardest at in this entire book so far. All right. Do you have any wrap-up comments about Class Act?
No, I think that's it. And I'm excited for these next couple of books because I actually have a lot to say about them.
Awesome. Okay, we're actually starting to get into the interesting content of the week, in my opinion.
Agreed.
So this is where the spoilers for Class Act Book 2, Chapter 12 end. We're now getting into the spoilers of Across the Void, Chapter 20, Rogue Planet. You've been warned. This is where the spoilers for Across the Void Chapter 20 are beginning. Again, going in our typical fashion, we're going to be going by the MC's default name, which is Nova. So, I'm not going to go through like the entire action sequence because I feel like it's just an action sequence. I don't need to narrate the entire thing, but
yeah,
there were some things that I thought was annoying, namely the fact that you have 2 opportunities. One was an option and one was just like a thing that the book forced you to do, to take off your mask, which I think is the dumbest part of this entire rescue plot. I was getting so frustrated with how often Nova took off their mask.
It definitely puts like, I don't know what our main character Nova's like thinking, because like anyone could see him and what they're doing at any point, and it just like screws everything up for him.
Well, it's also another, like, someone on Reddit pointed this out, that Nova, as a cyber, we found out that they had the ability to look under people's mask. Because when Pax and Zeppler, I think is their name, gets into these uniforms, they can see their faces using this, like, some sort of power that cybers have. So they can look under their mask. So it doesn't make any sense to me that when you say hi to Zeke, what do you, is it, do you
I just say Zeke. I don't try to, like, if the I's actually in it, like, pronounce with it.
Okay, we're just gonna go
saying
Zeke. We're just gonna go Zeke. So when you greet Zeke, it makes no sense to me that you have to, like, what? First of all, I don't care how in love you are with this dude. Don't kiss him. This is not the appropriate time. This is not
like,
the appropriate time.
We gotta get out of here. Like, we could still die. Like, just because you see me does not mean we're safe. Like, we still have to get out of here.
This is not the time. And then also, the fact that both Zeke and Eos go, "Who are you?" And they don't use the power to see. Like, they're both cybers. If Nova can do it, you can do it too. I feel like the mask reveal was just something that they put in the plot to have them get caught. But I feel like there are other ways that they could have gotten caught that would have been smarter. Like, I'm sure if, like, a couple of Void soldiers just started escorting out these prisoners of war, like, that probably would have raised some suspicions.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's, like, a smarter plot device that they could have used to get them to be caught by the Void.
Yeah, I can understand that. And although with the whole rescue mission in general, though, if you just, like, disregard that, I thought it was very well played out, and I liked the whole thing, to be honest with you. Like, with the whole rescue mission, the thing is with me, and I think if they took a different direction with the book earlier on, because, like, we're on chapter 20, so, like, this book should be ending sometime soon. To me, I think it's probably going to end in, like, either 22 to 24 potentially, just based on what we still have to do, unless on Monday we get, like, a big push within the story and we get closer to the end faster than I think. But if we were more pushed back in time, like back in chapters, I feel like I would have loved to see this rescue mission take a couple chapters. I think it was kind of rushed in terms of, you know, just the rescue mission in general. I feel like it could have been played out a lot more, but since, you know, considering where we are within the book, you know, they just have to keep going along with it. Because I feel like a lot more could have been, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe we're going to figure out more about, you know, the Void in general, and, like, their people, and, like, what they do. But I feel like we could have learned more about those specific type of people if that situation lasted longer, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I think I did overall like the action sequence because I think it just added, like, it changed up the pace of the general book.
Yeah.
That we've seen so far. So, like, to me it felt like it was moving at a faster pace, but in a faster pace in the sense that, like, I enjoyed where it was going. But I do agree with you that it seems a little bit unrealistic that, like, it only took us, like, however many minutes to escape an entire planet of Void.
No, I completely agree. I feel like I said earlier, like, if this was just, like, in the middle of, like, a regular book's life cycle, probably might be given that chance, you know? So, and the fact that not a lot of people, like, no one from your group either dies or, like, gets hurt for the most part. And in previous chapters, like, there's a potential chance for, you know, someone to die, but that doesn't happen if you, like, spend the diamonds for it. I don't know. I feel like they could have gone out with more of a bang. Like, I know they don't want to have people, like, a part of the main cast that you're friendly with die, I guess. But I'd like to see more of that, because I just think it adds more of a, you know, more of a cool dynamic of, like, oh, it's the next chapter of Across the Void, and, you know, we're in the middle of the war. There's a chance that so-and-so could die. Maybe less likely of, like, a love interest dying, but just, like, you know, more of a, I guess, side character. But I feel like that stuff makes it more interesting.
I think, well, I love the idea of Across the Void becoming Game of Thrones. Just like you don't know who's
Yeah.
going to die next. But I also think it's
Yeah.
hard because, like, if you want to keep love interest from dying, it's really difficult because literally Nova and Eos are fucking everyone. Like,
I know.
ev- everyone's a love
They're
interest.
ballers. They're ballers.
They're just like sticking it wherever they can. And so like that becomes like if that's the qualifier of who lives or dies, like where there's slim pickings.
It's like I found it interesting that Pixelberry was willing to have, a love interest cut off in Deimos. And I think of Deimos as a love interest because, there is another diamond scene in previous chapters where you're able to have like an intimate moment with her. It's only the only intimate moment you can have within the book so far. So I took her as like a love interest for EOs, but I was surprised that they actually had the option of, you know, having her being killed off or not, which I just found very interesting. I saved her because I didn't, if I'm able to save, someone that I think's vital to the story, I don't see why not. And I think she essentially is. So that's why I saved her. I don't know if you saved her or not, but
Nope, I let her ass die. I'm very like anti-use of diamonds, so like unless I'm super super into the story, like I'm into Across the Void, but like not enough to spend diamonds, so she's definitely dead. I also did not save a query. I don't know if you did.
I did. I did because I really like we only saw her for like a couple chapters, but I was just like, she's alone. I'm gonna take her in. I like her. I don't want her to die. And then given the fact that they like warn you, like if you don't save her, she's gonna come back stronger or like this powerful enemy, I was like, nah, I'm not having that happen.
Yeah.
You're with me.
They're like, a query's gonna bust your ass open if you don't save her. And I was like, bring it, bitch. I did not save her.
If anything, you could probably use Pax as like a shield. I'm sure people would be
I
fine
will
with that.
willingly throw packs
Yeah.
at anyone. Like, I will grab Pax and hoist her over my shoulder and use her as a projectile.
I don't know,
Without hesitation.
When I saw people like complain about the book initially, like even before like the hiatus, so we're going back to like before October or whatnot. I was so surprised that people found Pax annoying. So like when I even said that, I was just saying that just because like that's what like apparently a majority of what the people think. To me, I always thought the story was not like amazingly good. I thought like by the time it was the hiatus, I thought the book was like average at best, but I was content with it. I was willing to read it. I wasn't excited like, oh, it's Monday or whatever the day it used to come out before, and I wasn't like excited about it, but I was ready to read it. Now I'm actually, believe it or not, and you might even agree with this. I'm actually more excited to read Across the Void now after the hiatus, and I don't know if it's just because of like the action and like what's going on within the story with the war right now. But I think the book's in a good spot right now, and I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I started playing this like post October, so I didn't even know it was on hiatus when I started playing it. I was just like, I thought it was in like a Sims game where like I was like a captain of a ship, and I thought it was chill. It was so chill in the
Yeah.
beginning, and then
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what chapter like when it came back from the hiatus, but it's been pretty action packed since then. So yeah, I am looking forward to it. I thought it was like an okay book before. I didn't think that they developed the war that well, so I didn't really understand the point of like some of the earlier plot points about picking between like Vanguard and Jura, but now that doesn't even matter. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
it doesn't matter at all.
It
And
doesn't matter.
I'm curious, like I doubt they'll let like the public know if like they changed anything specifically within the story, whether it's the plot or like how characters are near the end. But I'm very curious as to what direction they chose to like change within the story to, you know, quote unquote improve upon it post hiatus. That's something that interests me because I want to see like what was their actual intent to begin with, you know, with the book.
I think it was probably just like one, they had to explain like the conflict between the Jura and Vanguard more thoroughly because it wasn't super clear to me. But also, I think probably the addition of the Void as like the main bad guy because I mean truly the conflict between the Jura and the Vanguard, like I didn't really find it that compelling because like both of them had their own sides, and I guess like you could like find one side more compelling than the other, but one, they didn't really develop either side that well, so I had no idea who I was picking between whenever the choices came up. But like with the Void, they're just like these evil, like relentless enemies, so to me they're a lot more interesting than having to pick between like a civil war. So later on in the book, we see that Senator Lyra arrives, and during the conversation, Nova realizes that there's a peace summit on Cyber that was planned by Prince Barlow. And it kind of hints at the fact that it might be a setup to get both the Vanguard and the Jura together. So we're left off on that cliffhanger. I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but that makes me very nervous.
Yeah, it definitely, especially since, Prince Barlow, but it it leads me to believe that's just going to be this one big event where it's just going to be complete madness unless, something happens, which I'm assuming that's what our group potentially might have the chance to do.
Yeah. I think I have some Reddit reactions that I wrote down. So user Candy Dots on Reddit thinks that the entire planet, the whole time, has been pro-void, as opposed to it just being like a singular setup by Prince Barlow, has been void the entire time, which I think is really dramatic. But given the chapter summary that we saw about there being like some heartbreaking secret that Cyber is hiding, I
Yeah,
think it's likely, which
potentially.
sucks.
I'm not sure. Like whenever I see stuff like that, I have to actually see it to believe it, sort of thing.
I don't know. I want it just because it's dramatic.
Yeah, it definitely, it definitely would spice it up.
I want something heartbreaking. Which I mean, I don't know. That's what the summary promised. So maybe that's what we're going to get. I also saw a comment asking about Meridian, the doctor on the ship,
Yep.
as to where he's been the past couple of chapters. My thinking on that is that I don't know. Holmes got his fucking legs chopped off, so
Yeah,
maybe
yeah, so
Meridian's
he has his priorities somewhere else.
Meridian's like, yo, we have an amputee
Yeah, and
here.
I can see how that could be disappointing though, especially if people chose him as, their love interest.
Yeah, it sucks, but I don't know. He's a doctor first. I think him like
Like I
banging
had the
Nova is
same,
not.
I had like the same thing with like Kepler, like after the hiatus, they didn't show her for I think 2 or 3 chapters, and I was just like, did they forget? Like, did they just scrap this character and did they forget about her? But no, it's just one of those things, I guess, where there's just not a lot of time for them to put in that sort of character. So it sucks, but
Well, they
hopefully
also have
tomorrow.
like 18 love interests, so
Yeah, I know. There's literally so many in this book. It's actually kind of insane.
it's hard to like find time for all of them. I also just don't really like Kepler or Meridian, so that's maybe why I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not really fond of any of them. Yeah, do you have any final thoughts? We're gonna wrap up across the
No,
void
I'm
if
just
not.
excited for the next chapter because I think this one's going to be huge.
Yeah, I think for sure it's gonna be a tearjerker, probably. All right, so we're finished with Monday books.
Not
Yay!
bad. 1/3 of the way there.
Yay! All right, so all right, so the spoilers for Across the Void are ending, and we're now going to be going into spoilers for America's Most Eligible, Book 2, Chapter 16. That's a wrap. So if you don't want to hear spoilers about America's Most Eligible, please steer yourself away now. So again, like in standard fashion, the main character's default name is Jamie, so we're going to be referring to them as Jamie from now on. So the chapter opens up with Jamie, Derek, and Mackenzie waiting in the living room. Adam comes up in his white suit because, of course, it is his equivalent to prom night. He quit 2 seasons and he's finally made it to the finale, so he's getting all dressed up and looking all special for the occasion. There's a lot of like filler content about, being able to have a diamond option to appeal to the jury. And then the voting begins, and you kind of get a hint as to whether, like, each person is voting for you based off of their dialogue. I didn't spend any diamonds on this book, so no one voted for me at all. No one did. It doesn't really matter who the winner is. It's either you or your partner, but either way, you get money. So I don't think the title really matters.
Yeah.
Did you win any yours? Did you spend any diamonds on this book?
I did, only because, like, I'm a real big fan of just, like, the story in general. It's just, sadly, for book 2, it was a complete flop compared to book 1, which book 1 by any means wasn't, like, the best book of all time, but it was very, very good in my opinion. But book 2 was just really such a letdown. Very, very disappointing.
Yeah, I don't think I spent diamonds on either playthrough. I definitely enjoyed book 1 more. Book 2 had its moments. It was entertaining in some aspects, but I don't know. I've never liked this series enough to actually spend diamonds on it. I have a feeling based off of the ending that I'm gonna hate book 3 even more, but we can get to that.
Yeah.
We can get to that later and my issues with that later. Here's my thing. If the main character doesn't deserve the grand prize, who does? Because truly, what have Derek, Mackenzie, or Adam done this entire fucking time?
Literally nothing.
The main... Like, Jamie contributes to everything. Everything. I don't understand how you could possibly look at the main character. Even if we fucked you... I fucked a lot of people over. Listen. But, like, I played the game. I don't understand what anyone else has done to deserve the grand prize, but... That's my complaint.
Yeah, I can definitely, like, echo that as well. Throughout the whole season, especially my playthrough for book 2, I was always, like, the winner. Like, me and my partner, didn't matter if it was Vince, Slater, you know, whoever, like, we always won. So, like, if anything, I thought it was pretty clear cut about who should be the winner, regardless of how they treated you from just a game standpoint.
Yeah, with the whole shit about, like, Heath being like, you voted me out, so I'm not gonna vote. I'm like, shut the fuck up. You weren't gonna make it past any rounds, okay? Like, the whole, like, oh, we don't like you kind of thing. It's just, like, pay attention to who actually plays the game. Like, literally the rest of the 3 characters just kind of float. I think, like, Mackenzie, Derek, and Adam are, like, kind of okay at competitions, but, like, who won everything? Me. I did. The idea that I don't win is bullshit. But whatever. That is not the biggest point of this chapter. What happens next is that I guess whoever has, like, the most in love points with you, if you spent diamonds. I mean, I think Adam was in love with me by the end of the book. So whichever LI has the most love points with you ends up proposing to you. And the fun thing is, even if you refuse, you literally have to get engaged to someone. There's no option to not get engaged.
Yeah, and that makes it very, like, I don't like that. Like, I chose, like, Jen. She was mine. Initially it was Mackenzie, but then I ended up just ending it off with Jen because I just liked her character more. But the fact that, like, when I finally read people say, if you can't choose like, if you say no to the person that proposes to you, you're forced to choose someone else. Like, that's just so bad. They're forcing you to do it just for, you know, book 3, obviously.
Well, my favorite thing there's 2 things about this that I love. First of all, I didn't reject Adam because there was, like, literally no one else. Like, I mean, not that Adam was, like, top tier LI.
Yeah.
But I couldn't imagine getting engaged to anyone else. So, like, if you refuse, how do you propose? Do you just rip the ring away from Adam and then give it?
Let me do this.
Someone else? Because clearly Jamie was not planning on getting engaged that night. So what do you do? What do you do? I have this mental image of me being like, Adam, thank you so much, but you're not the person I'm in love with. Taking the ring out of the box and proposing to someone else.
Ratings on the show would go through the roof, though, theoretically.
I know. It would be the most drama they've had. The entire season. I mean, outside of, like, Eden and Kiara, like, fucking dying. But Oh my god, it's just the silliest premise. I wish I refused just to see what it looked like because I hadn't seen any like YouTube playthroughs who had done it because I just really wanted to see what the drama looked like. But you know, it's fine. There's no one else I really wanted to get married to, so I guess I'll just deal with Adam. Also, the other thing is, my favorite thing is when Eden like comes up to you after their proposal, she she starts asking you like, I didn't know you guys were that serious because truly on cameras, it was never shown that you were super serious with like any LI, especially with Jen. That was very off cameras. But you have the option to go, oh yeah, I'm super in love, or I just went along with it. God damn it! I wish I chose that dialogue option. Oh my god, there's a lot of things I regret. I regret not rejecting Adam. I regret not straight up telling Eden, like, I just did it because I had to. There's a lot of regrets I have this chapter that I wish I picked just so I could see how they played out. Oh my god. Okay. I had a lot of fun with that. What did you tell Eden? Did you tell Eden you were genuinely in love?
I chose the second option, and then she was just like, she's surprised by it. But then your person ends up explaining like, oh, I'm just surprised that she actually ended up proposing. Like, I didn't expect that, even though like the people reading the book expected it in a way. So.
Ugh. So like it just gets played off as like an, oh, I wasn't anticipating it, but I'm still happy we're engaged. That is bullshit. We all know we all just got engaged because it was on TV. That was it. I would have never accepted a proposal if it wasn't on fucking live television. That's crazy. I was really hoping that would be like a little bit more sassy. But whatever. Okay, so the next major plot point of this chapter is that Piper ends up storming in and asks Jen if she's going to switch to her Game of Love, I believe is her show that she's now working on. Do you think Jen should have switched? I know ultimately she doesn't, but do you think she should have?
Based on like all the diamond scenes that I've seen and done or whatnot, I don't know, it just made sense for Jen to actually stay on the show and not go with Piper.
Yeah, I feel like Piper may have been a good boss to her in the beginning, like just like trying to figure out and being held to like a super high standard, but I also feel like Jen has come into her own, especially because basically it was her and Omar running the show anyways when Carson was like fucking everything up. So I think she's proved that she can handle like a lot of stuff. I have a critique about Jen that I'll save until we start talking about the next book.
Sure.
We'll get there. So do you pronounce their name Ren? Is that how you say that?
Yeah, I say Ren.
Okay. Ren also refuses to switch shows. Jen ends up finding out that she's offered the showrunner position. The most interesting thing about this entire scene to me that I thought was hilarious was there was a diamond option to tell Piper off, and you basically have this line where you can say, if AME sucks, it's because you made it this way. Because it's true. It's true. And then you accuse Piper of being lonely because neither Jen nor Ren are willing to join her in her new show. That's the only reason why I like that diamond option. I didn't pay for it, obviously. I think we've already established that I'm a very like anti-diamond spender, but I did watch it on like a YouTube playthrough, and I think I don't really know if I'd say that telling off Piper felt satisfying, but she's been gone for like a book, so I don't really know if I like feel the need to tell her off particularly.
I liked how there was multiple diamond scenes throughout the book, and like if you spend diamonds, you're able to basically just trash talk like the other person. I thought that stuff was cool, just because like even if it's not what we wanted to say to an extent, I'm just glad our person was able to just like talk shit to them and just be like, we're better than you, get out. Like, I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I just love the line, if it sucks it's because you made it. Because she's truly speechless by the end of the diamond option, and that was the only thing that I thought, like, I didn't spend diamonds, but after we ended the scene, I was like, that was worth it. Whatever amount of money, just that one line made it worth it. So we do get a teaser for the next book, which... oh my fucking god. Jen announces that the next season is going to be focused on established romances. So instead of having the traditional format that they've had, it's going to be that you're going to invite contestants and the audience to your wedding, to whoever, you choose to get engaged to. I hate it. I hate everything about it. I don't think that AME needs a third book. I didn't use any diamonds, so every single character hates me, except for Mackenzie, Derek, and Adam. And Adam is who I'm engaged to, so that doesn't even count. So I don't really see the joy in having them invited to my wedding. Also, in the very beginning of, like, book 1, they made a huge deal about you being single, because you can't be, like, sexy if you're not eligible. You can't be eligible if you're dating someone. But now you're making the entire show about a wedding.
Yeah, they definitely...
It doesn't...
They go off the track of, like, what they intended you or wanted you to do throughout book 1, and then by the end of book 2, that's like a completely different direction of which they took their own show.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, Kyle.
It's very disappointing, and just like the fact that I hated the teaser. I was just like, just from like an AME fanboy like standpoint, like I hated the teaser, like just based on the context of what it's going to be. I hope for the best, but at this point it's just like, I don't know. It's just disappointing. I really wish we could just have like just like, I'm fine with AME books with a completely different cast. And I've made posts about this before prior to like the book even being released. But like, I didn't like the fact how almost half the cast for this book was from last season. Like, it just doesn't sit right with me. Like, first off, I'm totally cool from this standpoint. If it's you, Ivy, and then your love interest, if it was Mackenzie, Derek or Adam. Like, I'm totally cool with that, with at least 3, But, like, then you just bring the whole gang along, and then it just doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, it's just like you and the Three Stooges going along. And I'm like, what's the point? Also, if Jen is, like, you're engaged to Jen, she's making a show about her own wedding.
Which makes it even more
Holy
weird.
shit!
It's like now she's just trying to make it be, like, all about her or whatnot. I don't know.
Yeah, she's like, I got engaged. I took over the second half of our finale just to propose to you, and now I'm gonna take over the rest of the show. And it's like, any confidence that I had in Jen as a showrunner is out the fucking window. like even you are horrible. You should have went with Piper.
Just think
so
about
this
it like
didn't
this.
happen.
Like, Jen's never like on the cameras when the show's like live. So like when they see like this random woman just walk up and like proposing, it's like, what? Who's this?
Like literally everyone in the audience is like, I don't know who that is.
Like, was she a past member? Like, no, she works here. Like, oh.
No, like Carson was literally like one of our own producers who's never been on the show before.
Yeah, it's definitely weird how that all went about with Jen. Like, it could have been fixed a little bit if they just didn't have it on camera. Like, for that scenario at least, like, I'm fine with it being on camera if it's like Adam, Derek, or Mackenzie, because like obviously the audience knows who that is. They don't know who Jen is, so. Yeah,
like, I don't understand why anyone would be excited about the next season of AME being about the contestant getting married to the producer. Yeah. Like, what context does the audience have? Like, it's just really bad TV.
I agree.
I'm gonna go into some we'll go into some Reddit reactions that I have here. User Tessinator said, if the MC got engaged to Jen, social media would be wild. Ivy stans would be crowing that they were really sleeping with the crew all along. Fans of the other contestants would be demanding justice, and the memes would be endless.
That's 100% true. Like, everyone's just
100%
like
true.
Like, in the book, it's just going over everyone's head right now.
Like, everyone's like, this is fine. Like, No one says anything. Also, where the fuck is Omar's reaction to this? He was literally, like, for a good, like, 2 or 3 chapters, was just hunting Jamie down for, like, a hug that he witnessed between him and Jen. They get fucking engaged on national television, and Omar says nothing?
Yeah, it's definitely the direction in which a lot of things could have went the completely worst direction it could have went. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Definitely not planned out perfectly, I think.
Yeah, it's really disappointing. And this is, I don't really have a particular reaction to this comment, but user blonde-haired sunfish said, I opened up choices and saw it was blue. Finally, it's over. And then in quotation marks says, pick your ally for the rest of the series. Fuck. There's just truly, like, no point in AME having a third book, in my opinion. I apologize if you're listening and you really like AME. I think if you want to make a third AME, sure. But the direction that they're taking it in is just so against, like, the entire series. And it's just, like, an excuse to get married to someone. But I don't think majority of people on the Reddit are super in love with, like, any of the love interests. It doesn't fit the plot. It just feels so forced, and I don't understand why they do this with books. It's like, I already kind of dislike AME. With the third book, you're gonna make me hate it. And I have to fucking read it, because we have to talk about it on this podcast, and I just don't want to. Like, I just don't want to. This is I'm in hell. I am in hell.
Just fingers crossed that it's something, something worth talking about. That's my hope.
The only thing that could save book 3 is if it was just completely ridiculous. Like, if Carson was just running amok, fucking everything up. like the same way that we had these moments where you were like, oh, I just did it to go along with it. And if that was actually as funny as I imagined it being, like, if we had moments like that, that's the only way that it could save it for me. Like, I just need, like, dumb shit to happen in order for it to be entertaining. That's all I need. The only last complaint that I have, and I'm gonna end it. I'm gonna end my complaints, because I've been complaining this entire time. Both Slater and Vince made a huge deal about the fact that you had a meeting with a TV executive, and they thought you were, like, meeting with the executives to try to, I don't know, force your way up into the win. They never brought it up again. That never came up. They made a big deal about it. I think maybe just in one chapter. But I think I remember 2 chapters that they brought it up, and it just went nowhere.
Yeah, if anything, they could have made even if they didn't bring it up in the finale, they could have at least said something to, like, the jury members while our main character's there, so then, maybe your allegiance with them just goes down a little bit, and then you have to work your way up again. But maybe because they just didn't want that, they didn't make a big deal out of it. But I just don't see how you make Slater and Vince make a huge deal about it, but don't add on to it. It's just, like, pointless,
Yeah, I think it's really dumb. And that same thing happened with Omar, where they just completely dropped the plot.
Maybe they knew that no one wanted to read the book anymore, so they were just trying to end it, sadly.
Well, they can say that all they want, but they're making a fucking book 3,
Exactly.
so I guess we're strapping it along for the ride. All right, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm assuming you have nothing else.
No, let's just move on.
All right, so the spoilers for AME are ending. We're gonna start the spoilers for Passport to Romance, which, honestly, if anyone actually cares about spoilers for this book, I would be surprised. I would be shocked. So we're gonna start talking about Passport to Romance Chapter 8. It's called Brothers in Anger. Same thing we've been doing for every chapter. The MC's default name is Charlie, so we're just gonna call the main character Charlie. I just want to say, I don't go into Passport to Romance expecting, like, stellar plot anymore. Like, I gave up on that hope a while ago. This chapter is, like, it's not a good chapter. I thought it had potential to be stronger than a lot of the previous ones, but it lacks some, like, critical things that would have made it a genuinely interesting chapter, and I guess I'll get more into that as we start diving into the content. So this book picks up immediately after Elliot's brother. His name is William. is entering the house, and he accuses William, or William accuses the entire group as a whole for being the reason why Elliot doesn't come home. And this particularly was just like, I don't really understand what the point of this accusation was. I don't really get it. Like, are we supposed to answer for, like, Elliot's, like, lack of responsibility in his life?
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed weird. And the fact that, like, if you had a certain amount of, what's it called? Just, like, a certain amount of, like,
The blogger status?
Yeah, blogger status, thank you. Like, he actually recognizes you. He's like, oh, you have some quality content. But then, like, he's also just trying to, like, say, oh, you're wasting his time. But, like, you know, he's having this potential successful blog depending on how your blogger status is. Like, I knew mine was, like, I think mine's already at level 3 out of 4. And so I was able to get that interaction where he was like, shocked that he sees me for whatever reason. But then he also is just critical about the group. I don't know. Just kind of an odd situation.
Yeah, I guess if, like, he knows who you are, I guess he has been, like, watching you, I guess, if he knows who you are. But then, like, the other thing is, like, what is the actual time that has passed in this book? Like, what, a week and a half? Like, this book hasn't, not that much time has passed. So, like, if he knows, Elliot's obviously been running away from home for, like, longer than a week and a half.
Yeah, so to make us, like, the main focal point of the problem's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, like, I think that's stupid. Like, from my standpoint, I have not invested anything into this book, so, like, I think I just reached level 2.
Okay.
And so, like, I didn't get that scene where he noticed me. So I guess that would make more sense if he was just like, well, my brother doesn't talk to me and he's here with a bunch of random friends. So I guess I should assume that perhaps maybe it has something to do with them. But I don't know. I just thought it was a dumb thing, especially now that I know that, like, he still accuses you of it if he's watching you. That's so dumb. There's also, because you have a few options to respond to his insinuation, right? There's a few options. You have an option to respond, do you even understand what he's going through? Which I think is quite possibly the dumbest thing that I've seen Charlie even think about saying in this situation. Because Elliot's not the only one who lost their parents. Yeah. Like, William did too. So to sit there and point at William and be like, do you even know what Elliot's going through?
No!
Yes! Like, that dialogue option made me want to tear my hair out.
Yeah. And it just goes to the point where, like I even recall posts on the subreddit saying how, like, Charlie isn't the brightest main character.
No.
This is just like a valid point of that right there.
So dumb. William then accuses Elliot and says that he's basically really impossible to get into touch with, and then tells him that, and this is a quote, he needs to grow up, live up to the family name, and get back to England. I don't know what it is about this book. There's something about Passport to Romance where they just completely, like, they take every argument and they make it, like, William could have had a very touching moment here where he talks about, like, you know, like, you weren't the only one who lost mom and dad, and, like, I had to do all this by myself, and you don't seem interested at all in helping with the business. Like, that could have been, like, a really touching moment. But instead, I feel like what Passport to Romance does with conflicts is they take it up to an almost, like, cartoonish level. Like, William sounds like this, like, evil dictator who's, like, trying to force his brother to, like, quote-unquote, live up to the family name. It's the same shit that they did with, like, Ahmed when he was like, oh, rich people suck. And then with Elliot, when he was like, don't you dare talk shit about dead people. It's just like they take it up to the highest level of drama that it could be. And it just seems so, like, fake to the point where it's like there could be a genuine, like, touching moment between Elliot and Will here. But there just isn't, because they make him such an asshole that you don't even want to feel bad for him, even though obviously, like, Elliot's in the wrong in this situation.
Yeah.
Like, it's so obvious that Elliot is, like, he's the one fucking up here.
And it's just one of those things where it's, like, it's one of those stories where it doesn't even seem like there's a main focal point for, like, the plot. Like, the whole point of this so far, and we're essentially halfway through the book up to this point, and there's no real plot besides adventuring with your friends and having fun, essentially. Like, you have, like, these side problems, which, William being one of them, considering how fast that ended. But, like, as for, like, a main plot to which something we look forward to, nothing really enticing, unless they're trying to really just make it seem like your blogger status is the main thing. I just don't see how that's like enticing enough to want people to be, excited to come back every Wednesday.
Yeah, we have these like half-ass conflicts that like go nowhere and are just like magically ended by the end of the chapter. The only thing that I've seen that's like kind of drawn out is like Marissa's issue with her boyfriend, which I feel like is probably going to come to a head next chapter, but
You know what?
that's really
What's
it.
crazy? Like the fact, like, and this is my opinion, the fact that I find Marissa's problem with her boyfriend the biggest thing that I'm interested in out of everything so far, I think that's an issue. Like to me, that typically that seems just like a side situation that, your character deals with here and there. And like it is here, but like it's the most interesting thing that Harley's dealing with, in my opinion, right now, rather than
Yeah,
anything
we
else.
haven't even dealt with it yet.
Yeah.
We haven't even dealt with it yet, and it's the most interesting thing that has happened. So Elliot almost decides to run away from his problems again, but he does end up staying. Later on in the night, there's a diamond scene to comfort Elliot. If you choose it, there's nothing really like super interesting that happens. I guess there's like a chance to kiss him if you want to do that. I don't know who would. I just pulled this comment off of Tumblr. User Testinator said, "Nuh-uh, no way. I am not going outside alone in the dark to talk to Elliot." So obviously, lots of people have that sentiment on the subreddit. A lot of people think Elliot's a murderer.
Which, to be honest, though, if that was the case, the story would be so much better. Like, it really would.
It just becomes like
Like, when I first saw this conspiracy theory, I was like, damn, like, a lot of it connects.
I just had the dumbest thought. Like, Passport to Romance becomes like the It Lives series, but instead of like It Lives in the Woods, or It Lives Below, it becomes like It Lives Internationally.
Just like a spin-off.
Like, yeah. Surprise, surprise, this is the third book that we've all been waiting for in the It Lives series. God, Elliot's such a weird dude, man, and the fact that he refuses to deal with his emotions, like, creeps me out even more. I don't know if I'm, like, fully sold on the idea of him being a serial killer, but I'd love something dark in there. I would love something dark. Um, so you wake up the next morning, to both Elliot and William yelling at each other. Elliot accuses William of being stuck in a rut, quote unquote, while William calls Elliot a coward because he isn't ready to be a part of his parents' company, which is by far like the spiciest plot we've had in this book so far. I was kind of living for the drama just because I was like, there's really nothing else going on in this house. Like, I guess you could go watch Ahmed like jog shirtless if you wanted to do that. But that's it. That's the only thing that's going on. We end up learning that William buys Elliot a one-way ticket to London, I guess to tell him, like, to grow up, I suppose, and giving him a chance to take over the family business with him. There's also the option, you go outside, you meet Ahmed, who's doing his, like, early morning exercise. You have a diamond option to go for a jog with him, which is just pretty much like an opportunity to flirt and like use his naked body to to promote your blog. I really want to know. The question I have is, why is he still here? Like, he was so concerned about missing his game,
Yeah.
but he's still here. He made it like such a big deal for like 5 minutes, and then like Charlie was like, "Oh, don't worry, we'll get there," and he just went,
Oh,
"Okay."
His whole mood changes.
Like, he's like, he was so just worrying about it so much, and truly he's done nothing. So I don't know. I guess though, we're getting to Berlin on time, so I guess it doesn't matter. Yeah, I just think as the diamond option's super filler. Later on, everyone's eating. Elliot walks into the room, basically apologizes for being like super emo like he's been the entire time. He then tells you that he's gonna travel by himself for a little bit, yet again running away from his problems. He gets a car to send everyone back to the train. You get on live stream, announce to everyone, all of your followers, that Elliot's leaving and he's not going to be back for a while. And your boss, Yvette, texts you and tells you that you need to, quote unquote, play it up. I have a feeling, since we were talking about this book, like, having a lack of big conflict, I have a feeling that the big conflict is going to be between Yvette and Charlie.
Which makes sense because, like, that's kind of the whole, this how, like, it's basically how the whole book started, really. Like, Charlie wanted to have this specific job within Yvette's company, and she gave him the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and I mean, there's just been tension with, like, Yvette inviting everyone to dinner and then immediately, like, interviewing them.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know. I mean, I get it, Yvette's a bitch, but I also, like, understand where she's coming from because, like, I feel like Charlie looks at this entire experience and views it as, oh, I'm traveling and I'm having fun, but I don't think she understands that, like, a company is, like, paying for all this shit.
Yeah.
So, like, to a certain degree, like, your boss does have to approve what you're doing, and I feel I understand Yvette's like not the most likable person, but also I don't think she's being ridiculous by asking you to like make sure that the content's good. I mean, because if this were realistic, I don't think like the blog would be popular. There's just
I just didn't like
there's
the
nothing about
direction
it
in
that's
which
likable.
I just didn't like the direction in which she was taking, like when you're like interacting with her near the end of the book, and how to like approach the situation with Elliot leaving. I just thought it was just like what Charlie's doing with him, or your main character and their friend, like what they're doing is like successful. Like it's promoting and doing a very good job at what it's doing. Like I just don't like how Yvette's trying to get more involved. Like I can understand from her standpoint, but at the same time, like it's already doing well as is. Why would you try to, you know, mess it up or like try to get involved more when they already have like their own formula for success?
I don't know, because Yvette's like, what is she, like in her 40s, probably super out of touch about like what's actually popular in like live streaming. So I don't know. I don't know, dude.
That makes sense though. That actually does make sense though.
Because I think the conflict between Yvette and the main character, I foresee it becoming the biggest conflict, the one that continues. I mean, I use continues loosely because we're like halfway through the book, I'm assuming, and like we haven't gone anywhere, so I feel like at some point this is gonna blow up. It's not interesting enough to me.
I agree.
But it seems to be like that's where the direction is going. So anyways, you have the option to like either be honest with your, the audience, or you can talk about corporate greed. That seems like a big red flag to just go ahead and get fired on the spot and be on the first plane back to the US, but alright. You get back on the train, Elliot shows up, and he says that William said that he is not ready to be a part of anything, but that him being a part of the group is him being a part of something. I think is bullshit. You're not doing anything new. You've been traveling for the past like year.
Yeah,
just because you're doing it with people now.
Yeah, if anything, you're just trying to make it seem like, oh yeah, I'll just continue doing this. Like I don't know, it's kind of dumb from that extent, and I just didn't like the fact how like we're getting the perception of Elliot leaving, and then he just comes back at the end. So like to me, it just showed like the whole chapter was almost pointless.
It was pointless. It was one of those chapters where they bring up a conflict and then it gets squashed without any like. It doesn't even get squashed. Like it just ends.
Yeah.
There's no conflict resolution.
It's just like a filler chapter. Like it's literally like nothing important happens here to me.
nothing happens. This isn't character development. It's not a challenge for him to go on a fucking train to Berlin and, like, goof off with his friends. Like, that's not hard. He doesn't spend any time in this chapter dealing with his feelings about his parents passing. He doesn't do any, like, doesn't repair his relationship with his brother. He doesn't decide to become a more responsible person. He doesn't decide to talk to his brother more often. He just decides to run away again. And for some reason, the writers are trying to phrase that like, oh my god, look at Elliot, like he worked through his problems. He didn't. He set you off to a fucking car because he was gonna plan on traveling by himself anyways. And then he goes, you know what? I'm still gonna travel, but maybe like not by myself this time. Nothing changes. I just don't. I just can't. I just can't. Okay. We get the teaser for the next chapter, which is going to be about them arriving in Berlin. So I'm assuming at some point we're going to see Ahmed play. And then also it's Marissa's birthday coming up soon. I think it's going to be a disaster because she's going to invite her boyfriend. Her boyfriend's either not going to show up or he's going to be an asshole.
Which makes sense. I'm leaning more towards not showing up, which is just shitty. But then she's just gonna try to make it seem like, oh no, he's busy doing, his job. It's really important to him or whatnot. But then your main character just tries to put it through her head like he doesn't care for you as much as I do. If you choose her as a love interest.
Yeah. And I feel like that's probably going to be the meat and potatoes of next chapter. I do have some Reddit reactions. These are both from user, and it's not, I don't know how to, I'm not going to even try to pronounce this, I'm just going to spell it. It's from user BRB RCR BTR. Says, 1, Elliot stayed behind to murder his brother, didn't he?
Technically, that could be true. That really could be true. There still could be build up to the main point that people are, hoping for, I guess.
I really hope that in the middle of the soccer game, Elliot gets arrested. I really hope he just comes out in handcuffs.
I think it's crazy, though, how all these coincidences of, like, Elliot and connecting him to being like this serial killer actually works though, because like we haven't seen William, so like there actually is a chance that this happens. Like it's very unlikely.
He had enough time.
Yeah, like it's very unlikely, but it makes so much sense though, so I understand where they're coming from.
I'm going for A Lives internationally. I need them to rebrand. They need to go on hiatus, rebrand the book, rewrite it, because this plot point is so much more entertaining than what they actually have going for them. The same user also pointed out that if you don't pick any diamond scenes, all the main character does is they basically turned on her live stream to tell them that she was getting breakfast, then she turned it off, then she told the live stream to tell everyone that Elliot's leaving. And then that's it. That's all the content she gave her viewers. This is what I'm saying. Like, to me, this live stream, like, of course, if you don't pay diamonds, it fucking sucks.
Yeah, I can definitely.
Like,
that's a good point.
Imagine getting a notification on your phone, and it's like, what is it called? Wanderlust. Wanderlust is on. You're like, oh my god, I'm so excited. What are they doing today? And she's like, I'm gonna go eat.
Like, oh, cool. What are you having?
I know that, like, you don't even tell them what you're gonna go eat for breakfast.
Yeah, you're just like, yeah, I'm going to eat, then turn it off. You're like, suckers.
Oh god. Okay, that's all I gotta say about Passport to Romance. Do you have any closing thoughts?
No, I'm just glad we're moving on.
Okay, spoilers for Passport to Romance are ending. We're gonna take a break. We'll be back after this commercial break, where there's no ads. Wow, we're back. That was a really long break. I did a lot of things. I accomplished a lot of things. Did you?
No, I didn't. I'm lazy, as usual.
I went on a run around the block, ate a meal. I feel good. And I'm ready to discuss the rest of the chapters. So, Spoilers for Nightbound Chapter 3, titled A Den of Wolves, are about to start. Main character's name is Alex, so we're going to be calling them Alex. I know I'm really excited to discuss this chapter. It's the one release of Wednesdays that I actually look forward to now that it's been added. So it's the morning after you've confirmed that there's a blood wraith. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's blood wraith.
Yep.
Super powerful monster has been summoned by someone to come after you. And so you're walking in the streets of the city with Nick. Very briefly, your character brings up Vera and the fact that you can't find any information about her. What do you think is happening with that character?
I think she's probably one of the characters that is going to be ending up being a potential love interest, and she's probably involved with like all like this mystical magic stuff. I'm not sure if she's like on like the bad side or not, but there's potential for that, but I doubt it.
So I read this very interesting theory. I think I got off of Tumblr, and I apologize. I don't know who I got it from, so I can't give credit. But someone said that in the scene where you first meet Vera, she has a very extensive glove collection, and that she doesn't really go outside without them. Like, it's always an accessory she has. Someone thinks that she has powers that is connected to her hands, and that's why she has to wear gloves to, I guess, avoid using it in random situations, which I think is a very interesting theory.
That could be true, but it also like brings up the point about like how all of these characters like Ivy the zombie, like they have like this magic glamour to hide their appearance of what they truly are. I just don't see how Vera couldn't do that with her hands, unless something like happened that we just don't understand yet.
I'd have to imagine that the only way that would make sense if it was like she really couldn't control her powers.
Like, that could be true.
Because or I don't know, maybe there is a glamour and she looks weird. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, she's almost like too attractive. So I would believe it if it was some magic shit that was making her look that pretty. She's almost too attractive. I don't know, I'm digging the theory about her having a glove collection because she has powers. As to like what happened to her, I think she's definitely not dead. I think like you flirted with her a little bit too heavy for her to just die.
Yeah.
Also, your best friend. Did we figure out she was in the hospital? Am I missing that detail?
Yeah, she was in the hospital, but like Nick said that they're not taking any visitors. So as far as we know, like she's in good hands, but
Okay. Yeah, I think Vera got away. Especially because, like, the Blood Wraith wasn't coming after her. It was coming after you.
Yeah.
I also think, for sure, like, Vera has some sort of mystical element about her because I think most normal people would just run away, but Vera seemed pretty confident in distracting the monster away from you. So I feel like there's something about her that's going to kick in at some point. But we're only, like, 3 chapters in, so I'm going to wait.
But it is interesting, though.
It is interesting. The mystery surrounding her, I want to know a little bit more about it. Nick tells you that you need an herb called hunter sage to help you find the creature. I'm not 100% sure what's the point of finding the creature. You think you'd want to run away from it?
I think the whole point is just like because they mentioned how the blood wraith, like its specific purpose is to find you and kill you, and the only way to stop it is by killing it itself, so they're just trying to use the hunter sage to find it and then hopefully kill it.
I think I'd bide my time. I don't think I'd go charging after it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, Nick was barely able to injure it in the first place. Well, wait, didn't we kill it?
We killed like a ghost, which we needed for Ivy, so we could get like this sort of information.
But we didn't kill the blood wraith.
No, the blood wraith is still alive.
Oh, holy shit. Okay, well, this is just me getting caught up on the chapters. Apparently, I wasn't fucking paying attention. Okay. So, you enter a shop that Nick takes you to. There's this woman you bump into who has some, like, weird quotes. She says, like, harm is a strange thing, and that she has much to do. She runs away from you. I don't really know what that implies, and she has, like, a pretty unique character design.
Yes.
If I'm remembering her face correctly. So I feel like at some point her cameo is hinting to her being a future important character.
Yeah, I agree.
Yet again, just another, like, female character that we don't know what she has to do with the plot. But, only chapter 3. We'll see. There's the store owner. His name is Luke. He takes you back to the back of the store. Nick mentions that he has a new job after his Jimbo job, which is kind of like the first foreshadowing we see of the mentioning of his Jimbo job. You learn that he doesn't have any hunter sage, which apparently the werewolves are the ones who typically have that supply, but they aren't giving it to anyone. So it leads to this entire plot point of you having to go find hunter sage somewhere else. But before you leave the store, there's this interesting diamond scene. I don't know if you took it, where you could let the cashier or store owner read your cards. I got the summary. I took my own notes, but I got this like much better phrase summary from user House Trained Ibex on Reddit. The summary of the reading is that the main character Alex will walk 2 worlds and it'll make them stronger. There are 2 women who are trying to help you and 1 bitter man. 1 woman sails the seas of time. 1 woman is wounded and blinded by love, and she'll bring the whole city tumbling down because of it. There's also a Prince of Swords that has a dark history, but will not leave your side. And that you'll find love, truth, and a piece of you, and then you'll lose it. And then the last advice that he has is don't trust the jealous boy. It's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot to take in.
That's a lot to take in the diamond scene. I think very obviously the Prince of Swords is Nick.
Yeah.
Because he does have a dark past with like his father being killed in that line of work. And he does seem like pretty loyal to you. I think right now his loyalty primarily lies on the money. But I do think over time the situation, I mean, obviously he's going to end up being a love interest. So I think like the situation is going to bring the 2 of you together. As to what the other ones are, I have no idea. I saw some predictions talking about how the jealous boy is going to be Donnie, which is a character that we don't meet in this chapter, but we do have like heavy references to him. The latter half of the chapter focuses a lot on finding him. I don't know. I think it's interesting, the idea that you'll find a piece of you and then you'll lose it.
Yeah,
that's intriguing to me.
These sort of like just like all these statements, like when you were saying them, I couldn't really put a name or just like any sort of event that could happen besides the Prince one. I actually thought the Prince one was literally the most obvious one. We could be wrong, but it just makes so much sense because he's there to guard your life. But for the other ones, we're probably just gonna have to wait later down the line to actually make this sort of connection. I'm very curious as to don't trust the jealous boy one, just because like, who is that character and why should we not trust him?
Yeah, how do we figure it out? Because that implies it's gonna be someone you're gonna want to trust.
Yeah.
I already am like pretty excited for this book, but this card reading just amped it up another level.
It gets you thinking.
Because now I'm gonna spend the rest of the book like being like, oh, I bet that girl is the woman who sails the seas of time, and I bet he's the jealous boy. So I don't really have a lot, and I don't think anyone has a lot to go off of right now, but I am intrigued, to say the least, and I think if you decided to pay for the diamond scene, it was worth it, personally. After the diamond scene, Nick decides it's time to go talk to the werewolves. It doesn't go well, because apparently that Jimbo job that he's been foreshadowing to this entire chapter is where Nick killed a young werewolf called Jimbo because he was going on like a bloodlust-fueled killing spree. So you get kicked out. Before you get kicked out, there is a thing called a monster tear that if you touch it, you get transported into a memory of Kristoff's, which is the pack leader of the wolves. And this is pretty similar to like what we see in Bloodbound. There's something that you can interact with that transports you to a different time. It's just in this book there's a monster tear. You also see a vision of Kristoff and his lover, presumably Octavia, who kill a bear in what I assume is another bloodlust fueled attack. Do you have any like first impressions of these characters, or just like the wolf pack in general?
Um, Not really, like, 'cause we really just get their perception of Nick and like what he did with the Jimbo job, you know. So they obviously have, some resentment towards him, and we're not really able to see much. Granted, with the tear drop like scene with Kristoff and Octavia, I thought that was interesting, but I don't think it's really leading up to anything as of yet.
Yeah, I feel like what they're trying to get across is, I think probably what the scariest aspect of the werewolves is how much they enjoy killing.
Yeah.
Like that's the one thing that they seem to get across is like there's this one werewolf Jimbo that Nick had to put down because he killed like I think 3 people before Nick got to him, and then there's Kristoff and Octavia who like go hunting. I don't know as to whether them killing a bear is like actual evidence of them being like crazed, bloodlust like monsters, but it seems like that's what they're trying to get at without going to the extreme of, they're killing people.
I think maybe also just to look at it a certain way is like it's only been 4 chapters. We've been introduced to multiple different um kinds of people within like this sort of universe, right? So
Mm-hmm.
maybe as we progress through the book, we're going to be meeting these sort of people, and then we're going to be given like this teardrop, like diamond option, and it really just gives you like the background of who they kind of are as people, which to me it kind of makes sense if you just want more background on them, and then maybe if you get more than half or like all or at least like the majority of it, like something special happens near like the end of the book. But that's a long time coming, but it's just a prediction.
Yeah, I think it's probably gonna be if you collect all of them because that's how it was in Bloodbound.
Okay.
You had to collect every single piece to get the ending. But it's also interesting because that means that they intend on extending this book to a second book. Because the ending scene usually hints to a sequel.
I don't know. I was actually gonna ask at the end if you thought, because like they said this is just a spin-off book to Bloodbound, and I didn't know if that just meant, oh, this is just gonna be like a one-off book, but here's like, just a spin-off version of it. But that'd be interesting to see if there would be a second book to it.
I would love a second book, and I mean, I know it's super early to call it, but the first, like, the Bloodbound, pretty much just about vampires. This one has, like, zombies, ghosts,
Yeah, you have like a
whatever the hell
wide
that's.
range of.
Yeah, there's, like, a huge variety of, like, monsters to
Yeah.
to explore, and I feel like you could definitely have another book where you go kind of deep dive into like what are zombies like, and I think Vera's definitely some sort of magical creature. I'd love to know what she is. I'd love to spend some time once we uncover. Like, I think it's very clear that Alex isn't 100% human, and so I'd love to spend some time kind of deep diving. Because obviously you're gonna find a piece of you and then you're gonna lose it at the end of the book. I love maybe a second book where they kind of try to get that piece back, maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
No, that'd be
so
cool.
I don't know. I don't know. Those are just some ideas off the top of my head. Obviously, we're very early on in the book, so like these are just predictions. I don't have anything backing it up. Um, so anyways, let's go ahead and move on. Kristoff, the pack leader, basically threatens to like kill the both of you, so you leave. There's a piano player who you do meet earlier in that scene. His name is Cal. He says that he can give you Hunter Sage if you help find his brother, Donnie. And he says that Donnie just up and left once Cal got back, and his brother was acting super weird, and then just disappeared. So he needs some help finding him. Nick goes into the house that Cal takes him to, finds out that there's a warding spell that prevents Cal from actually picking up his brother's scent. And then there's a whole diamond scene where like Nick asks Cal to find something of Donnie's, and then you can follow Cal around the house and find a necklace. I don't really know if I found the scene. The scene to me, and this is what the diamond scenes are kind of coming off as. There is one diamond scene in the beginning of the book where Nick teaches you how to do some forms of
Like fighting.
self-defense or offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, he tells you how to fight, and that's not really That's more of a skill scene. I'll be interested to see if that actually plays out in the book. Um, but the other two diamond scenes are more so like kind of hinting at something. The second diamond scene being that like a card reading experience, and this one where you can help Cal kind of go around the house and explore it, and Cal fills you in on a little bit of Donnie's personality. And that was the bulk of what happened in this diamond scene, is that he talks a lot about Donnie and talks a lot about him, and you kind of learn about their relationship with each other and how they're different. And so I think the purpose of this diamond scene, at least from what I took off of it, is that we can assume that Donnie's going to be pretty important.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time talking about him.
Yeah. One thing that that I'm starting to like notice, and I don't know how you feel about this, but now they're starting to do like it's only one diamond scene throughout like like a span of a book, but now they're kind of making this like be a consistent thing where there's a diamond scene in which you choose whether or not your person learns how to fight or do like, you know, a specific tactic or whatnot. And I don't know how you feel about that, but I don't know, like I feel like it would have to be like a perfect time in terms of like doing that sort of thing. Like I didn't choose that scene to learn how to fight because like it was just like early on, and I just thought it was kind of like repetitive because I already spent diamonds on trying to learn how to fight with other characters from previous books. I don't know how you feel about that, but I just thought it was just like, I don't know, we're kind of getting to the point now where they are reusing certain interactions throughout multiple books just to, you know, just to put it in there. So like now we're almost kind of expecting to like, oh, our character doesn't know how to fight, or at least can you know, put up a good fight, and they have to have like this sort of scene just to, you know, make the next, you know, scene manageable for them.
Yeah, I guess I see what you're saying. I think for like the average person, probably taking some self-defense is like useful for them. Like I don't think Alex, like prior to this experience, would have been prepared for a fight. I do agree that that is a thing that they seem to be doing, where you pay diamonds to like gain a skill. We see this in like the Elementalists, we see this in Ride or Die, where you have to pay diamonds to gain a skill, and then like later on there's some scene where like you put those skills to work. I feel pretty neutral. I don't like it. I don't hate it. I think ultimately, like, most of the time it doesn't matter because you get the same outcome anyways. It's just like, oh, are you badly hurt or not?
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, it typically doesn't determine the main character, like, living or dying. So, I feel pretty neutral about it.
Makes sense.
But I do agree with you. They do reuse a lot of stuff.
It's kind of like similar to like outfits that they give you. Like it doesn't really change that much of the outcome whether or not you wear this specific outfit, if that makes sense.
Exactly. I do agree that like and I'm not one of those people who is like who gets like mad about them reusing art or reusing character faces. Like I really don't care. But I do think when you start to reuse the writing, which is like the core of the storytelling, that's when it starts to get a little for me. So, I don't know. Them reusing the mechanic itself of like pay diamonds to learn the skill doesn't bother me that much. I think it's just like probably the inevitable reusing dialogue or something. But I do think like overall the dialogue and the interaction with Nick in that scene isn't... Nick is kind of his own unique character. I feel like most of the time when you learn how to fight, like, the person who's teaching you is, like, really super soft and easy, whereas, like, Nick is, like, pretty tough on you in that scene. So at least that's different. But as to how I feel about it, I'm pretty neutral. It hasn't gotten on my nerves yet. And then the chapter leaves off with Cal picking up Donnie's scent, and then he immediately goes after it until you find a club that Nick has, you know, some very ominous warnings about. Do you have any predictions about what's going to happen in the next chapter? Any gut feelings?
No, it's just I don't want to make it like bland as like what I'm just about to say, but it could just be another group of people in which, you know, you have to be wary about because they probably have you know, they probably have like a dark history behind them in which you have to be careful because they're like murderous or something like that. But you have to kind of expect that because Donnie, he's just randomly gone, and his scent leads to this place in which, like, no one knows why, so you just have to expect the worst, I imagine.
Yeah, I honestly I don't know what to expect at this point. I have no clue.
Like,
That
you can't
that
just think, like, oh, he's there and he's just, like, with his friends, and then they just carry on with the story. That'd just be, like,
Yeah,
so,
it's definitely he's not going to be playing pool
yeah.
and drinking a beer.
Like that, how crazy, like, I would honestly, I would be surprised if that was the case, only because, like, it just seems like so far the writing in this has been pretty, like, above average, I'd say, easily, to the point,
Mhm.
like, if they did do that, it would just kind of be like, wow, like a shocker letdown. Like, really? Like, that's where we're going with this?
Yeah. I agree. I agree. All right, do you have any closing thoughts you want to make on Nightbound?
No, I think we got everything.
All right. That's all for it. All for me too. I'm super excited about the next chapter. I think we finally got a discussion about a chapter that I actually really enjoyed. So spoilers for Nightbound are ending. We're gonna start the spoilers for Open Heart chapter 12. I'm not even gonna pretend to know how to pronounce um, the chapter title. I think it's the name of the company that. Okay, I don't want to get.
You don't have
I'm
to.
not even
You
gonna
you
try.
don't have to. It's okay. Just don't tell me to try, 'cause I won't.
I might ask you to pick up my slack. uh no, okay. I was really gonna give it an honest effort. I'm not gonna do it. Spoilers for Nightbound are ending. Spoilers for Open Heart are beginning. We're in chapter 12. The MC's name is Casey Valentine, so that's what we're gonna refer to the MC as from now on. Okay, so this chapter kind of opens up, picking up on some plot points we've been noticing throughout the book. Particularly, it opens with the nurses avoiding you because someone told the nurses you've been trash talking their work, so they're starting to avoid you unless it's completely necessary. This is already existing on top of the charts getting lost and your pager missing. I think it's a little weird. The plot for this book was great. Like, this chapter was not a bad chapter whatsoever. I think it's a little weird that every single time your main character gets sabotaged, we just let it go.
I know, like, we're not trying to figure out who it is.
Like, Casey's career is, like, literally getting ruined. Like, okay, we talked to Danny. Danny's the one who explained to us, and Danny was like, oh, well, don't worry. Like, they'll talk to you if it's an emergency. And I'm like, how would they know if it's an emergency if they keep running away from us?
Exactly. Who do you,
How would they know
who
that?
do you think it
They
could
don't
be
even.
potentially that's sabotaging?
Yeah. Like, that's.
I think it's Aurora. If not, maybe Jackie, but I highly doubt that.
All right. Well, I have a theory. I'm gonna save it to the end,
Okay.
but I have a theory, and this is based off of Reddit comments. That God, I love the Reddit comments because they just people notice stuff that I don't notice, and I think it's super interesting. Okay, so you all go to a bar, as in you all, as in Casey and her team, Jackie, Bryce, etc. Casey reveals her plan to steal a sample from Declan Nash when he visits Edenbrook to finalize the deal that he had made with Ethan a few chapters ago. Uh, Pretty much everyone's on board except for Landry. Landry gets really pissed off and actually leaves. So how do you, like, what side of this debate do you fall on? Do you feel like Casey's doing the right thing? Do you feel like Landry's right that we've gone too far? Like, what are your ethics on this?
I think I'm on both sides. Like, I completely understand where Landry's coming from, but I also understand where Casey's coming from, in which, like, Martinez literally says to Casey, like, even though it's a 40% chance, I'm more than willing to, like, do it? So, like, that's how I think about this sort of thing. I don't think anyone's really in the wrong. Like, if anything, from, like, a third person's perspective, I guess we're in the wrong because we're doing this illegally. But, like, I don't know. She's accepting to it, so, and she really wants to live out her dream of, like, adventuring out, like, in Paris. Like, I don't know. I'm in the middle.
Yeah, I would say probably if I was actually Casey, I probably wouldn't do it just because I'm like I cannot deal with the consequences. I think for me, like whenever I decide like if I'm kind of stuck in the middle ethically of something, I have to weigh what the results are going to be. And I think it's like great their intentions are in the right place, but I also know, like, putting a lot on the line, man. You're putting a lot on the line.
No, that's
You're putting
true.
your own career on the line. You're putting your friends' careers on the line because they agree to help you. I just I think like the intentions are great, but I think like especially as we end like near the end of the chapter, you start to see I just don't know if Casey thinks it was like worth it by the end of the chapter. That's the only thing I worry about.
I
Cuz
guess
if
with
you can look back on everything you did and you go, "Yeah, I would do it all over again." Then that's different.
yeah.
But if you can't say that, uh, uh,
I don't know. Like if I was Casey, I try to be more safe with the approach. Like if you're actually going to follow through with this, maybe have her sign like Miss Martinez like a contract or something. Like just showing that she was completely fine with the outcome and like she wants this to happen, you know? Because now since like you haven't done that or that we know of, it's just like you're going through with something without people knowing if she had consent to this or not, you know, and that makes it worse on you.
I mean, I feel like if this was going to go to trial, which it probably will, like I think everyone who knew Mrs. Martinez because she was there for an incredibly long time knows that she was like absolutely miserable in the hospital. So I feel like hopefully like the witnesses of people who know her would be able to vouch for that. But as to whether that's enough, I mean at the end of the day like you did steal something and you did break a law by giving them an unapproved drug. So even if you had like evidence that Mrs. Martinez wanted this, I don't think the law is gonna side with Casey in the end. And I'm interested to see like how this plays out. But anyways, we're getting ahead of ourselves. There's kind of a filler scene where Sienna is in need of a pick me up, so you take her to I forget what it is. I think it's like an animal shelter where they have lots of different animals
Yep.
there. And she brings up again the fact that she's struggling if she wants to stay as a doctor at the hospital. Do you think Sienna should quit?
I don't think so. It's just one of those things where like, you know, you're just struggling and, you know, it's their first year. They haven't really been through this a lot. So, you know, when you get this sort of uh, when you get these sort of problems which people are just either mad at you or you just keep making these mistakes, you know, you just think down on yourself and just think more negatively. I think over time she'll realize like I don't even know why I was thinking that, you know, but
Well, I think it's hard. Like I don't know. I know like I've had family friends in the past who really wanted to become like a detective because they wanted to like help solve crimes and stuff. And then after you show up on like crime scenes, like these crime scenes are like super dark. There's like dead people. There's just a lot of like really dark stuff. And I've just known like family friends who have gone down like certain career paths like that where you really have to face death. Like there's no avoiding it. And then they just realize that they don't really have the stomach for it. And a part of me wonders if that's Sienna. Like I don't think she's like a super sweet character and I love her, but I question like she's almost like too sweet to the point where she can't deal with this kind of stuff.
it's possible. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I just don't. I think she's just more like in the moment with her, you know, struggles and like feelings of wanting to, you know, quit. I really don't think it's just an actual like she's not up for the challenge or whatnot. I think she is. I think it's just she's just going through a rough patch in her career.
Yeah, I also feel like I don't really spend enough time with her character to be able to like determine
Yeah, no,
what
that
it
makes
is.
sense.
It seems like she, at least from my impression of her, she seems like someone who's motivated by like good things happening. Cause like we'll contrast her with Jackie, right? Jackie wants to be like an accomplished doctor. I don't think this was Sienna's necessarily aiming for. I think she like wants to help people, and she feels like she can't help people because there just are some scenarios where you're not going to be able to. Like you can't save everybody. I don't think Jackie's motivated by that. Like even in that scene, like in an earlier chapter where you were plotting to like help Miss Martinez, Jackie asked you like, "Why are you doing this?" Like it's like clearly getting engaged with her patients is not something that's like high priority with Jackie unless it helps her build up to being like a super impressive doctor. And I think that's just like a key difference between Sienna and Jackie. And so if I had to lean towards it, Unless like Sienna figures this out in the next couple of chapters, I think she should quit.
Okay.
Because I don't think that like the motivation of saving every person just isn't realistic when you're a doctor, and I don't think that she can handle the reality of that.
And I wonder how much they're gonna put emphasis on like this sort of situation with Sienna, because if you think about it now, we have two major plot points in which we have to figure out the Miss Martinez situation that just happened, and with with Ethan and Naveen, his little project with his which was like his boss earlier, but now he's going
Mm-hmm.
through something in which Ethan's not able to figure out.
Yeah, agreed. I don't. We'll see. I have some theories, but again, I'll save that to the end. So we find out Miss Martinez died in her sleep. Do you think that that's still a happy end for her? Like, she died, but she also got to go to Paris and like go see the things she wanted to see.
I think so. I think it's hard to argue not to, because she brought up how she really wanted to go to Paris. She did not care what was at stake. She didn't care that it was that 40% chance of, whether or not she's going to live or die. Um, the fact that she was able to actually go to Paris and just be around that sort of, environment, something that she's been dreaming of her whole life, at that age, you're just accomplishing what you want, and the fact that you're able to, sadly, you die shortly after, but it's just, I'd consider that a happy ending for her,
I
regardless.
do too. I mean, I know I said earlier like I kind of struggle with the ethics of like whether or not what Casey did is right, but I think about this a lot just because this is going to get real it's going to get a little dark. I think about this a lot about like the end of people's lives because just like as a species like we're living longer and longer. But then I also see like the number of people just in general who get old. Like my grandmother is potentially developing Alzheimer's and she just doesn't like really recall things. She kind of like loses like just general knowledge of like where she is and what she's doing in certain moments. And I think like I don't ever want to say that like getting old isn't a blessing because there are a lot of people who like die super young and don't get to live out their lives. So I don't feel that way. But I also just don't see the point in like getting old and like living a life that's unenjoyable.
For
Like
sure.
to me, I'd rather if it was a choice between dying at 60 and like being able to accomplish everything I want to accomplish versus like living to 90, like I'd choose dying at 60. And I think that's what Mrs. Martinez is like conflict is getting to because like you can get like old and like live a long time, but that doesn't mean you're happy. Like just being able to live until 100 like in within of itself isn't an accomplishment.
Yeah, you see a lot of people like I saw like these articles, I think it was like maybe weeks or months ago, in which like the oldest living like man or woman, like 100 and something. I want to say like 120, but I feel like that's almost unrealistic, but I don't know. But like that's not like it's not like a good thing to live that long. Like yeah, you're alive, but like what are you really doing? Like what are you
You
actually
can't do
capable of
anything.
doing at that age? And it's literally, from what I see, probably nothing. And it's just sucks. And I agree. I would do the same thing, just be until like 60 years old.
I see like and a lot of times whenever you see those like longest living people, they'll go and interview like I've seen interviews of news reporters who go into like a senior's home and they're like, "Oh, this person's 110." And like they go to interview them and that person doesn't know what the fuck is going on. They can
Yeah.
barely speak English. They don't know
Like,
what's
are they
going
really
on.
living?
Like and like another theme that like Open Heart plays with is just how expensive like caring for another person is. Like my dad tells me this all the time. He's like, if I get to the point where like I literally can't wipe my own ass, like just pull the plug, because like you don't want. I don't ever want people like seeing me in my old age and being like she's a shell of a person of who she used to be. You know what I mean? And I hear that from
Yeah.
a lot of people who like watch their family members or just like loved ones go through like really intense like just getting old because your body just starts to kind of deteriorate and it's just like you start to see them become a shell of the person who they were and like you don't want to be left with like the memory of like who that person was. Like, you don't want that memory to be them, like, barely eating, not being able to walk. You want to remember them, like, as they were. And I think that's what the theme kind of gets at here, which is, like, she didn't want to be remembered as, like, the old lady who walked the halls of Edenbrook for 30 years. Like, who wants to be remembered like that? It's rough, but I think ultimately, I think it's better that she was able to go to Paris, even if, like, that meant her dying. I think she knew that that was something that was a possibility. I understand why the family is upset, but I also think, like, I think it's possible that Mrs. Martinez didn't really feel comfortable expressing to her I think she may have brought that up, actually, that she didn't, like, her family wouldn't understand. I think it just sucks. It's a shitty situation, but I do think it is a happy ending for her, ultimately. The thing that made me very uncomfortable was how Landry, like, very much, like, rubs it in your face that your patient died.
I know, that was... Like, I understand that he's trying to say, like, I was right, you guys shouldn't have done that. But, like, at the same time, it's kind of like, dude, you know, we're wrong now. But, like, you don't have to be a dick about it.
Yeah, like, clearly Casey's, like, already upset about it.
Yeah.
You don't need to be like, oh, it's your fault. You killed her. Like, I'm like, Landry, get the fuck out of here, dude. Like, what are you even contributing to this chapter? What are you doing?
I know, you're making us hate you now.
I always thought Landry was, like, kind of a nerd, but he's like, going in, like, super, like, oh, I follow the rules territory all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, God. So at the end of the chapter, you find out that Mrs. Martinez's family is suing the hospital, and you're considered, like, a person of interest, so you're gonna end up being investigated, which is fucking bad news. Bad news. Do you think that Casey's actually gonna take the fall?
I think so. I think it's one of those things where, like, it's gonna be like an option or whatnot. Like, if you actually try to end up going into it, thinking about it now, like, is it confirmed whether or not, like how she died?
Nope.
Like, we're just told that she died, right? And
Yep.
that the family's suing.
Yep.
There could be I don't know, there could be a situation in which, like, she somehow managed to get herself killed, I guess, to make it, like, let's say hypothetically the drug actually, like, the cure actually worked for her, and, like, she actually managed to get herself into a sticky situation, which ended up her getting killed. But I don't know. Like, how it seems like now, it just doesn't seem like there's a way out unless it's like something like that for the main character.
Well, I mean, there were some interesting conversation on, like, Reddit about the fact that, like, the half-life of medicine doesn't exist that long. So, like, the chances that the medicine is, like, still in her system is pretty unrealistic. But then again, I mean, people have criticized the realism of this book anyways. So, as to whether or not it's actually going to hold up, I highly doubt that, like, the writers are thinking about how long medicine actually lasts in the body.
Yeah.
I did see two user theories. Again, I don't have any particular person to credit this for. Just some things I saw browsing through Tumblr and Reddit. The first theory is that Sienna is going to take the fall for the main character, because she did say that helping Mrs. Martinez was the happiest she's felt since joining the hospital, and that she already wants to leave. So it seems like there's a potential that she may just take the fall because she was like, you know what, it's the first thing I enjoyed doing, and I don't feel bad about it.
That makes sense. It actually would clear up, like, that story with Sienna anyways, and, you know, the main story actually continues on with, you know, your character and Ethan and then your group. That makes sense to me.
And I feel like that would be the appropriate way to wrap it up.
Yeah. A lot
Like,
of
if you're gonna go out,
a lot of the theories, like, all of them make sense to me. Like, it just, there's no, you know, rhyme or reason about it. They just all make sense to me. So, but we just always just have to wait and see what the next chapter holds.
yeah. A lot of users also think that Ethan's gonna take the fall for Casey. I don't know if there's, like, I didn't really understand the reasoning why behind it, to be honest. I tried reading the comments and I didn't really understand. Some people think that he's already kind of disillusioned with his ability to be a doctor, considering that he can't save his mentors. Like, maybe that plays a role into it. I don't know.
It
I
depends.
don't know.
It really depends on like the time period, because let's say the final verdict is just about to go down and your character's going to admit that it's their fault, and then like during that time, you know, uh, Naveen ends up dying like that day or that week, and then Ethan's just like, screw it, like, just goes with his guilt self and just like takes the fall for it. It's possible. It just really depends on where you're at time-wise within the story.
Yeah. I agree. I don't know. I'm really leaning more towards the Sienna theory
Yeah,
than the Ethan
I
theory.
agree. Makes more sense.
I think it'd be really disappointing if our mentor like completely dropped out and then wasn't there. Whereas like Sienna, it just kind of fits. But like we always say, we'll see next chapter. So I have a couple of notes I've taken on people's feelings towards Landry that I think are very interesting. User, I love this Reddit name, PM Your Felines. I guess they're asking for photos of people's cats, I think. Anyways, that user said that okay, this is a particular quote, I think. That Landry specifically said that Mrs. Martinez's family will care in response to, when Casey found out that Mrs. Martinez was dying. All of a sudden, the next scene shows that the family suspects that someone used an unauthorized drug on her, which is a very specific suspicion, right? Mm-hmm. Someone just died. You roll up to the hospital and you're like, I bet you someone gave her medicine that shouldn't have used. I don't know about you, but that's not my first thought.
Well, we also have to take into account when, after we gave Miss Martinez the drug, and then we had the follow-up reports of like her white cell blood count or whatever it was, and like how it was rapidly improving. So I can understand from that standpoint if they were given like that sort of information, how it could be like that. That makes sense to me from that standpoint. But
from even like the doctors think that it's just like a miraculous recovery. Like they don't assume that she's received anything.
Yeah.
So like to me, if the doctors don't assume that, then I don't see how a family who has like no basis in the understanding of medicine would jump to that conclusion.
Well, it also could just be the family's like resentment, and they're just trying to find a quick solution, and it just so happens to be blaming the hospital, So.
I guess, but I mean, it still gets back to the fact that like accusing someone of using an unauthorized drug just seems like something that you wouldn't say unless you had like evidence of it. And I think that's where
that can make sense.
Getting at. Yeah, I think that's what this user's getting at, is that like Landry very pointedly says her family is going to care, and then all of a sudden they have a quote-unquote suspicion that that someone gave her an unauthorized drug. So some people think that Landry's the one who is sabotaging the MC. And this is another user username. Their username is fucking John. In the bar scene, fucking John noticed that Landry has this particular quote as, Casey's talking about the nurses avoiding her. Or, them, depending on what gender your main character is. Everyone at the bar says, that's terrible. Like, who would do that for you? Who would do that to you? And, they're endangering the patients is, like, the worst part about it. Well, Landry has a quote where he says, that's just it. It's not endangering the patients. It's just making the main character look bad. Fucking John said, it sounds like Landry's trying to convince himself that he's not doing a bad thing after sabotaging Casey because it's not affecting the patient. It's just making Casey look bad.
It would be crazy to me if this was a whole, like, if Landry, like, let's say this is true and Landry's literally doing this just so your main character goes down on the rankings. I would think that's such a scumbag thing to like go out of your way to do.
I mean, it kind of makes sense if you think about it, because Landry from like the very beginning was like, I need to be number one. I've been wanting to get on this diagnostics team. I need to be on it.
No, yeah,
and like
100%.
lately he's been super resentful of everything that the MC has been doing. I mean, he wasn't acting like this. Remember, when MC was like down on like number whatever, the lowest part of the list, he was like, "You're gonna do great." All of a sudden, when you're number one, he wants to be BFF with Jackie when Jackie was hating on you. And now he's acting all, well, how could you do this in High and Mighty? And I'm not saying that people can't disagree with Casey and act all quote unquote high and mighty. I think it is some of his dialogue is leading me to believe he's not a good guy.
We'll just have to wait and see. But I definitely see from their point of views of like Landry potentially being this bad, like this evil character. But we'll just have to wait and see.
He's very much at least an antagonist in this chapter, and a lot of people also think that he's going to testify against Casey.
Yeah. Yeah, at the very least, he's definitely an antagonist in this chapter.
Yep. I don't know. I'm into it. I'm into the drama. I need the drama. As we know, Luke is one of the Choices writers, and he's writing Open Heart, and he's already broke our hearts with a couple of books, so I'm ready for it. Do you have anything else you want to say about Open Heart?
No, I think we're all set with that.
Okay. I'm all set too. So spoilers for Open Heart are ending, and we're about to start... My fucking heart. We're about to start the spoilers for Ride or Die, Chapter 16, The One Who Got Away.
Let's go!
I might start crying. I don't know. Okay. My heart is real heavy as we talk about this one. Whew. Alright, so main character's default name in this book is Ellie Wheeler, so we're going to be calling her Ellie. The book picks up at the moment of realization as the Brotherhood starts to realize that they've been captured on camera in front of the schools. So, their faces on there. Technically, Ellie officially has evidence that these cops are a part of the Brotherhood. There's a really interesting theme, and I don't know why I wasn't expecting this. There's a theme throughout this entire book of how you can't live two lives, right? You can't, like, for example, Ellie can't go to high school and be a regular high school student and, get into a really prestigious college and also be a criminal on the side. That's not something that can happen. I think by chapter 14 at the end of it, Ellie comes to the realization that she can't pick two lives. And that's a really integral plot point of her character when she realizes that she can't do that anymore. So she starts to use that same line of thinking to convince Jason to turn himself in. Because she's trying to tell him, like, you can't continue to live this life. Like, I figured it out. You can't keep doing this. And Jason truly doesn't fucking get it. Because he's never had to pick before.
Yeah.
So, I just have to say, people who don't like Ride or Die and are listening to this are going to fucking hate me. I think Ride or Die is very easily, like, I haven't played Endless Summer, so I can't comment on that. I know a lot of people think it's the best book. I just haven't played it. But I played Perfect Match. I really loved it. And Ride or Die is like right up there with Perfect Match for me, if not higher.
I have to say, like, I have like this leaderboard list. I haven't like really gotten into it. Like, I haven't like set the rankings for it. But when I was thinking about it initially, like, out of all the books, and I've read all the books besides some of the paid books that you have to do, like the freshman series, besides those, Ride or Die is easily like a top 5, top 3 book out of all of them. Just like based on what everything's given to you with like the plot, the setting, the characters, everything. Like, this book was really captivating as it kept going on.
I just loved it. And I love the fact that they had this entire theme about like having to pick between your two lives, because that was just a constant thing. I mean, Logan was telling her that, Colt was telling her that, Mona was telling her that, and Ellie was like, suddenly I'm deaf. I can't hear. I'm gonna live both of my lives. And I mean, even I'm replaying the book right now. It's like literally the only book I've ever replayed. That's how much I love it. I'm replaying the book right now, even from the beginning. Chapter 1, before Ellie even gets involved in this crew. There's this very interesting conversation where she's talking with Rhea and Darius, and she's talking about how jealous she is of Ingrid, who, as everyone knows, is our like main competitor at school. And she's venting about how Ingrid, like, has figured out how to have it all. She's on every sports team. I don't know how the fuck that's possible. She's in every club. She's almost valedictorian. Not quite, but almost. I guess that changes depending on your book. But at least at the beginning of the book, she's behind Elliot in ranking. And she's getting frustrated because Ingrid, like, has it all. And she can't figure out how she does that. And Rhea starts to point at Ingrid and goes, well, she's a great example of how you can have it all. Like, you can totally do it. And it's just like, I'm rereading this chapter 1, and I'm like, oh, shit. Fuck. It's right there. The theme is right there. It's so good. It's so good. Oh my god. Okay. It's just so good. I don't know if you have anything else you want to say on that.
No, I think you said it perfectly and emotionally.
It's so brilliantly written. Okay, I'm gonna move on before I start crying. Okay. So this is where I think that Jason really starts to fall apart, because, again, like I said, Ellie's already accepted that she can't keep both of her lives separate, while Jason has not. So that's really, I think, I think Jason was right in some earlier chapters. I think it was chapter 13 where he sneaks over to Rhea's house and tells her, like, they're the same person. And they are, in a lot of ways. But I think that's the one thing where Ellie tops him, is that she finally understands she has to sacrifice something. He doesn't get that yet. And that's where he has a weakness where she can exploit them. So the rest of the Brotherhood leave, while Jason is, like, trying to think of a way to salvage what is left of the Brotherhood, which is really just him at this point. Mona gets shot protecting Ellie. I have some thoughts. Now, mind you, you romanced Mona throughout this playthrough, right?
Yep.
Okay, so you have a different context for me. You have a much different context for me, because I did not do a damn thing with Mona. I was not interested in her. For your Mona-heavy playthrough, well, as Mona-heavy as the book let it be, do you think that this made sense for Mona's character?
I'd say so, just because when you have, like, these, like, now I'm referring to, like, the diamond scenes, when you have, like, these specific conversations about her and her, like, ex, essentially, and, like, how she goes in depth with how, like, how she really cared for her, and, if you're obviously pursuing her as a love interest, it just makes sense for her character to do that, like, to go out of her way and protect you, even if it means she's getting hurt. Now, on the flip side, I can totally understand if you're not pursuing her as a love interest and then she still does it, because I don't see how you get much of a friendship, like, to make her want to do that, to be honest.
There's literally nothing. Like, I think I talked to Mona like 3 times in the book, and she jumped and took a bullet for me, and I was like, what? And then when I said that she was brave, she was like, I just got shot for a girl. And I'm like, but I have never in my life led you to believe that I was into you. Why did you do that? Stupid. I was just so frustrated. And then now here's, like, okay, people are going to disagree with me on this. I know they are. This entire book, I would estimate, and I have not gone through and, like, tallied up all the number of references that the writers have made to how much time has passed, but I'm estimating that it takes about 4 weeks in this book, because it's a 2-week time period between chapter 8, when you leave your dad's house, and when you go back to him in chapter 15 to ask for help. And then the rest of the events, I believe, if I paid attention after, like, during my replay, I'm assuming the rest of the events before chapter 8 take 2 weeks. So I'm assuming it's a 4-week period. Okay? It's a very short time. Out of all of the love interest, Mona by far has the highest barriers up of all of them. And I just don't... Like, Logan's never been burned by someone that he loved because he's never loved someone before. Colt, in particular, I feel like can feel very attached to the main character because of the fact that they both have like daddy issues and they're both like working through like not being appreciated by their father for what they consider to be their true selves. For Mona, I just don't, and this could just be because I didn't do a Diamond playthrough for her, so like I don't have that much context into her character. But I just don't feel like, even if you did the Diamond scene, I don't feel like there's a lot of like touching ones that are like real like heart to heart connect that would make sense for Mona over the course of 4 weeks to decide that she's going to get shot for someone.
Like I said again, like there was a lot of scenes where you're just simply just talking to her, and like she's actually opening up to you about her life, and you're being like understanding, and then not only understanding, you're also showing that you like her and stuff, and then it just keeps, how I see it, it just keeps growing from there. So like for her to like still protect you, it makes sense to me. But I definitely can see how like in your case it kind of makes no sense, especially with the lack of dialogue that you get with her.
Yeah, maybe it's just me. I didn't play enough Diamonds. When she jumped from that bullet, I was like, ooh, girl, you made a mistake.
What are you doing?
I do not love you. um, so Jason goes back to his house, confesses to his wife. That confession is then recorded by the FBI and your dad, depending on if you spent diamonds to ask him to help you. And it gets used as evidence. He gets arrested. And to be honest, if you don't spend diamonds on the rest of this chapter, the rest of the chapter kind of sucks. Just being real. The rest of the diamond scenes with Mona, Colt, Logan, and your dad are just like you saying your goodbye and saying whatever you have left to make the relationship right if you need to. And I think if you're doing a no diamond playthrough of this book, the last chapter sucks. You really have to pay to get like the good content. I did. This is the only book that I've ever consistently paid diamonds for, but I did it. The only thing I have to point out, and I don't know if you saw this on your end, I pretty much only romanced Logan throughout the entire book. I think I may have done one scene with Colt, but to me, I played like all 3 goodbye scenes with all the LIs. These diamond scenes are like weirdly romantic, even though I didn't romance Mona or Colt throughout the book.
Yeah.
Even when I picked the platonic option, it still kind of felt romantic. And I didn't really understand that vibe. Like, Mona in her diamond scene is like, oh, I'm gonna miss you. And then you have the option to, like, hold her hand. And then if you pick a certain dialogue option, she kisses you. And I'm like, girl, I have never led you on to believe that this is something more than just me being concerned about you getting shot.
That whole scene with Mona for the diamond scene, like when you're bringing her to the hospital, because like, first off, at this point, we still didn't know if there was going to be a second book. So like, if this was a standalone, and it was like the final chapter, it could end with like, Mona actually end up dying in the car or whatnot. Because like when you were driving there and you're at the red light, you're able to like stop, or you can speed right through it. And I'm just like, no way, there's a chance that she actually died. Like, I genuinely was getting, like, sad, because I was like, I like this character so much, and she does not deserve to die like this.
Yeah, I sped through that red light. It just makes no sense. Like, I'm not gonna sit there and... We've been breaking the law the whole fucking book. You think I'm not gonna speed through a red light?
Especially during this situation? Like, please.
During this situation, it is high stakes. That is ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know. Having her go to jail for a girl again, like, kind of sucks. I mean, I don't know. I read a comment where people were saying that, like, everyone being super negative about, like, the ending for Mona, like, is... I don't want to say... I wouldn't go as far as say it's wrong, but that this person... I wish I knew who it was, because I did not make note of their username, but they were talking about how, like, Mona... people who romanced Mona got a lot, because, like, she took a bullet for you. You get like a good scene with her in the car, and like she pretty much like is very open and honest about her feelings, and it's almost sort of like an arc for her, because the last time she went to jail for someone, they didn't really love her enough to stand up for her, whereas like Mona is like openly choosing to do these things because she realizes that it's worth the love that she has for Ellie. So, I don't know. I kind of understand why people think the ending sucks, but I guess that person, I'm just sharing that to provide an alternate point of view. Because Mona does do a lot for you in this chapter. I mean, she's the reason you didn't get shot. So, I think that's at least a good point.
Of course.
Then they have Colt's diamond scene. There's this overextended metaphor, I think, throughout the chapters where we start to associate Colt with fire. That comes up a lot. Especially after, I think it's chapter 13. Colt decides that he wants to become a criminal. He specifically says his father died so that way Colt could choose his path, and this is what he wants to choose, and that he thinks his dad would understand. Do you think that that's a happy ending for Colt? Like, are you satisfied with that?
I guess, it's just really depending on, like, how he wanted. Like, because you have to think like this. Like, Kanenko, like, he didn't want Colt to, pursue this sort of lifestyle like he did. He was very against Colt doing that. And I think since, he was pushing him away, it made Colt want more. And then ultimately it just made him who he is at the end of the book. So I think it just makes sense. I'm content with it, but definitely I wouldn't mind if he chose to be on the good side and try to get his life on track, go back to finish college and stuff, but I'm definitely okay with what he's choosing to do here.
I think it is bittersweet just because his dad, like, very obviously didn't want him to do that. But then again, at the same time, like, I think if you choose the diamond scene with his dad reinstalls, like, the NOS and stuff on your car, he talks about how, going into this life was never an option for him, so he wanted to make sure that Colt had that option. So I think it is, like, the one, like, silver lining of it, I guess, is that he did have the option, technically. He just chose to continue on in being a life of a criminal. So I guess that's the silver lining, is that he's not being forced to do it like his dad felt like he was, or that he had, like, no other path. Like, Colt very much knows he has a different path, he just doesn't want it. So I guess that's the happy ending. I don't know if I'm, like, happy about it, but it makes sense for his character. Logan in particular, man, that diamond scene almost wiped me out, boy. Oh my god. I almost lost it when I was playing this, and I was in public, and I was, like, about to cry. It's fine. It's okay. It's fine. In particular, I thought Logan's diamond scene was super touching, because, he has this entire arc about always leaving and always being ready to leave at, the drop of a dime in case something goes bad. And he wraps it up by saying that he finally has something he wants to stay for, which is you, but he knows that he can't. Which is like, I just love that boy. I don't care what Logan does to me. I think he can do no wrong. In my eyes. He can lie to me all day, every day, and I'd be like, it's fine. I don't see the problem here. For me, at least, Logan's goodbye scene was the toughest for me to read, because he was the one who introduced you into, like, this world of, like, the NPC and, like, street racing and car theft. And it was through this entire experience that you discovered yourself. And ultimately, like, Ride or Die is a coming-of-age story. And even at the end, as he says goodbye to you, if you tell him that you don't know what to do without him after he leaves, he tells you that you need to be who you really are. I mean, whatever that means in the future. And so even if, like, to me, even if he's not your chosen LI, he's still an incredibly integral part of the main character's coming-to-age story. That's why I feel like, more so than just me being, like, head over heels for him, why I felt super connected and, like, very sad whenever he had to say his goodbye. I'm assuming, I don't know, did you find Mona's the most touching because you...
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I think since you had Logan as, like, your main love interest and I had Mona as mine, I think we both have the same emotion towards our own diamond scene with them when it came to saying goodbye, because I felt totally like I didn't want to say goodbye to Mona, and the fact that when she went to the hospital and like the police were already there and stuff, I was like, this can't be the end for her. Like, she can't end her life like this.
Yeah, I think these diamond scenes were awesome. Also, the other thing is that they weren't that expensive. I was expecting more money to be paid to say goodbye, but also if you don't have any diamonds to start with, like, this chapter sucks. I'm gonna be honest. It's the diamond scenes that make the chapter. without it, it's not that great. But I particularly found Logan's touching. You found Mona's touching. I think it's nice that we got to say goodbye to our allies at least.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was expecting, but I'm glad that I got to see that. Regardless of whether you pick the diamond scene or not, your dad pulls a gun on Logan, which I just...
Yeah,
Man.
It definitely got sketchy there, because we're just like, whoa, this is not how it's gonna end for this guy. Like, he wasn't my love interest, but still, it's like, chill, dude.
Man, I was rooting for our dad. And then he had to go do that shit. Just... Like, I think... And I mean, perhaps there are some readers who don't give a fuck about Logan, and that's fine. But I think no matter what, like, the book writes it so that your MC, even if you don't romance Logan, at least cares for him in some way. And I think it's super fucked up that your dad is like, I don't give a fuck. Pulls a gun on him. Like,
chill.
Especially if you romance him, bruh. If you romance him and your dad, because you can ask him, if you play the diamond scene, maybe this is a line even outside the diamond scene. I wouldn't know. I pay for the diamond scene. But if you play the diamond scene, you literally go over like, I'm not going to love anyone else, Logan, and it's only you, and you can't leave. I need you to be here with me. And your dad overhears that conversation, and he still pulls a gun on him. That's the love of my life. I don't care what he did. How do you hear that conversation and even think about pulling a gun on him? I just don't understand. My dad was walking a really thin line in that scene. And I can't believe that, like, you didn't have an option to, like, tell him off after that. Like, what the fuck? I was rooting for our dad. I know, a lot of people really hated him, and I didn't really get it. But during that scene, I was like, it's done.
He crossed the line.
It's done. He did too much. This is the next part of this book I just find really funny. Graduation was the next fucking morning.
Alright, let's just forget everything that just happened.
Oh my god! Graduation was the next morning! Oh, I fucking lost it. When it was like, you wake up the next morning, I was, excuse me? I understand that you gotta handle your business. Like, I understand that, you know, there was a time limit. You know, you had to do that really fast. I just can't believe that it was the next morning. Like, literally the next morning, you take down a corrupt cop. Your friend gets shot. 2 of your friends have to leave the city. And you gotta go to graduation. The timing on this book honestly cracks me up. I think the timeline of the book is the funniest shit ever. Because it truly happens in, like, the span of a month, and that's just wild to me. Who was the valedictorian? Who did you study enough?
Yeah, I studied. I wasn't gonna let Ingrid win. Screw that chick. She was just too cocky. I didn't like her.
Yeah, I also I didn't pay any diamond options in the beginning half of this book. It wasn't until the later half that I started paying. So, like, every single time it was like pick between Logan or studying, I picked studying.
When I was given those options, I just did both. I was just like, sure, let's come around.
Well, I think we've learned throughout the duration of this conversation that you spend diamonds more than I do. I'm real I'm real cheap. So then it flash forwards a week later, you're packing up to leave for your summer program. I just have to say, some people were confused about the summer program because it wasn't clear. 'Cause in the beginning of the book, they said that you had to keep up your grades, not only to be valedictorian, but also to gain admission into Langston. So some people were confused about whether the summer program meant that she was going to Langston. If you didn't study, did you not get into the summer program? I think everyone got into the summer program, and in chapter 1, because I've replayed it, in chapter 1 it was implied, not directly said or connected, but it was implied that the summer program is a part of her acceptance at Langston. So I'm going to assume that if she's going to the summer program, she's still part of the school. And that seems to occur whether or not you studied or not, which I think is, I don't know. Some people have theories that, like, this book ending was rewritten, which kind of makes sense to me, because it doesn't make any sense in chapter 1 for them to be like, oh, your acceptance to Langston is contingent on your grades, and then it actually isn't. which makes me think that they may have rewrote it.
It could be, or it could just be like a tiny mistake, you really can't tell with that sort of thing.
I mean, there's other stuff. I think I'm gonna do an entire episode dedicated to Ride or Die. There's some other stuff that I've just noticed that make me think that like there are certain aspects of the ending that were a little rushed at some points. So that's why I personally kind of lean towards the theory that they rewrote some of it. But who knows? Who knows? Also, you learn that the car that you flipped in the last chapter a week later is okay.
Hell yeah.
It's okay. What? Someone who's better at cars than me. Can you explain how?
You just have to think like Toby just probably went to work with it.
Toby left, came back to repair your car, and dropped it off and was like, that's the last shit I'm gonna do for you.
Otherwise, there's really nothing to, like, I don't know how you could explain it.
I'm so tickled by the idea that Toby repaired your car last time. Like, and that seems like such a Toby thing to do. So I'm replaying this book and I'm reading his lines again, and I'm like, that actually kind of seems like something Toby would do. Like, Toby is like, I understand the feds are after us, but I just want to work on your car a little bit because you kind of fucked it up. Okay, I'm gonna stop laughing about that. I laughed too hard about that. Okay, so your car is fine. Magically, the snap of Toby's magical mechanic fingers, your car is totally back to life. You have the diamond option to have breakfast with your dad. Did you take that?
I did. Just because, like, I just wanted to see how it was. I kind of do regret it a little bit, though, because it wasn't really much.
Why?
I don't know, it just, the whole, I thought it was going to be, like, so much more from it. I don't know what I was expecting, but I didn't get what I thought I was going to get, if that makes sense.
I actually really like the scene, but I think it's also because, like, I liked her dad throughout the majority of the series. He kind of fucked up a little bit at the end, but I did like him through the majority of the series. Like, did you end up wanting, like, at the end of it all, did you really want to repair your relationship with your dad?
When the whole story with, like, the dad situation, I didn't, like, I knew, we had an issue with him considering, we're with these quote-unquote criminals, even though I didn't really see them like that, because obviously as we got to know their characters, we come to realize that they're not as bad as we expected. But, like, with the dad, I don't know, like, I always just tried to repair because I understand where he's coming from. He's just trying to be protective, but at the same time, he's not letting his daughter branch out and discover who she actually is.
I think my issue with my feelings about the dad is we didn't get that much context as to, like, what led her to feel that way. Because so again, replaying the first chapter, so I remember quite a bit of details from it. The only thing that we actually learn is that, like, he wants his daughter to go to college, which is, like, most parents in America do. He doesn't let you drive, which I think is fucked up. I think it's fucked up they doesn't let her drive. And then, like, here's my thing. I had overprotective parents growing up. And so, like, my mom would, like, struggle to let me go to parties. Like, I mean, I had to wait until, like, middle school to go to a sleepover. Like, I mean, my mom was just very overprotective. But the thing is, like, on your 18th birthday, in that first chapter, you have when you go to that party that, I think his name was Brent was hosting, you have the option of telling your dad three things. You're going to a party, you're going to a small party with just girls, or you're studying over at Ria's house. If you tell him you're going to a party, he's, like, chill with it.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, if he had been like, I don't really want you to do that. Like, if he had shown some resistance, I would be like, okay, that feels like an overprotective parent. But, like, really the only thing that we ever saw of him being overprotective was not letting her drive. He was chill with her doing, like, other normal teenager things. And, like, she spent a lot of time away from home, like, before he figured out what she was doing. And I didn't see him really complain about it other than just saying, like, I miss you. Because, like, if I did that shit growing up, like, if I was just hanging out for hours and hours and hours and I came back and I didn't have an explanation as to where I was, my God, I wouldn't even be alive right now. And so it's like, I understand they're trying to hammer down this idea of, like, oh, Ellie's dad's super overprotective. Like, the only thing we really ever get from him is that he doesn't let her drive. Everything else I feel like is pretty standard. Like, of course he wants her to go to college. Most parents do want you to go to college. Of fucking course he's gonna be upset when he fucking learns you're hanging out with car thieves. A gang of them? Like, duh. How in the world does that attribute to him being overprotective? I feel like most people would be upset to find out that their child was hanging out with a gang of thieves.
I'd hope so.
I would hope so. I would hope most parents. I mean, fucking Colt's dad didn't even want him hanging around with them. What does that tell you? I feel like if they had done a better job setting up, like, the idea of her dad being overprotective of, like, actual regular teenager things that teenagers should be allowed to do, I'd be more gung-ho about hating him. But I just can't. Like, the dude worked crazy hours, always made time for her, you know, played board games with her. It doesn't matter what time his shift started. He made breakfast for her. Like, this bitch always had breakfast on the table, bruh. And, like, a hot meal. He always, like it was like I'm replaying the book and I'm noticing, like, the little things he did for her, and it's like I feel like her issue with him isn't that he's overprotective. It's just that maybe she doesn't want to go to college, or, like, maybe she feels like she couldn't pick her future. That conflict would have been more understandable rather than it being like he doesn't let me do anything, because he doesn't really prevent her from doing that much other than driving. Like, she has a lot of freedom. And I don't know, maybe a part of that has to do with the fact that he works, like, weird hours because he's a detective. And so, like, maybe she snuck out and he didn't always know she did, or whatever. But I just feel like they didn't really hammer down the plot of him being overprotective enough. Because I was expecting for him to be like, oh, there's no way in hell you're going to a party. You need to be back by this time. Even when she got back late, he didn't even get mad at her about that. When I got back late as a kid, oh my God.
It's game over, man.
And that's what I'm saying, like, as someone who had overprotective parents, I just don't feel like they went far enough with the characterization. Like, to be honest, he was a pretty relaxed dad, in my opinion, other than the driving. I just went on a rant.
Okay.
I didn't really feel like they hammered down that point enough to make me hate them. They could have made us hate him. They really could have. And I didn't feel that way. At all. And I feel like I had pretty overprotective parents growing up, so. I had a dad who I had a neighbor who lived down the street from me. My dad would walk me to that neighbor's house. I couldn't even walk by myself. This girl going out all hours of the night to the garage, and her dad is just waiting for her. Doesn't say shit when she gets back. I'm just saying. So no, I didn't hate him. They could have done a better job making me hate him. I mean, that last scene where he pulled a gun on Logan was that was rough. But anyways, I said a lot. Do you have any feelings about her dad?
No, I think you explained it enough, and in a good way too, so I'm just glad you had your moment.
I needed to get that out. I was very frustrated about that lack of character development for him, I think, at least on my end. But maybe, I mean, a lot of people did hate him, so maybe that was enough for other people. I don't know. So Ellie ends up going off to her summer program. Did you like the ending? A lot of people were very upset about it.
If there wasn't a book 2 in development, I would be upset with the ending, because it just seemed like open-ended. Like, I know we had our goodbyes with, you know, whoever you chose to have a goodbye with, if you did, but, like, I don't know, I just felt like it was missing something there, because when I saw the ending, like, when we were just driving and, like, that was it or whatnot, I was just like, whoa, it's over. Like, I was like, no way.
Yeah, I actually like the ending. I love a good bittersweet ending that tears my heart out, and I think it's realistic, but I'm so fucking glad that there's a book 2 coming out. I mean, not anytime soon, but I'll wait. Yeah, I liked it. I think the only thing that sucks is that, like, I don't see how it's realistic that Colt stays in LA and didn't get apprehended. Like, he's literally in the same exact spot that they're looking for him in, and he didn't get caught. But Mona got caught. I mean, granted, of course, she walked right into a hospital.
Yeah.
Obviously, she got shot. Obviously, she was involved with something, but I don't know. I just feel like it does kind of feel like the rest of the crew got off a little easy. But then again, they probably kept it open-ended because, you know, possibility of a sequel. And I guess if, like, that many characters were in jail, maybe it'd be hard to... I don't know. I did like the ending, though. It made me feel empty inside, and it ripped my heart out. But I did love it at the end. Also, question. You said that you played the diamond options every single time you had to pick between Logan and school.
Mm-hmm.
So did you... Because I know you can really shape your MC's, like, personality based off of your options. Did you feel like did you play your character to where the character wanted to go to college? Or did you play a character that was like, fuck it, I'm gonna be a criminal?
I think a little bit of both. Like, the options in which we were able to, like, actually study and stuff. Like, I chose to do that, and the only reason why I chose to do that is because I really, like, I had so much resentment towards Ingrid. Like, I just didn't like her character. I didn't want her to win. I didn't want her to have the last laugh because she just thought she was just so cool, and I'm just over here like, you don't know who you're messing with.
You didn't want the girl with the outgrown roots
No.
to beat you?
I'm glad she didn't.
Yeah, I think my my main character also wanted to go to college. I think some people were really upset because there wasn't, like, an option to not do that, but I guess it depends on how you play your main character. For my version of Ellie, it fit, but I could see how it doesn't, especially if you were romancing Colt and, like, because Colt was like, oh, we're gonna rule LA together, like, every single scene you had with him, so I guess I could see how that's upsetting. Overall, did you like Ellie as a character, as a person?
I did, because, like, she started out as, like, just this shy individual, like, this really smart, shy individual, and then, like, she was kind of shaped by Logan and eventually the crew to be, you know, more confident with herself and able to choose more of a direction in which she likes to go about things. And so, yeah, I thought the character development of the main character was pretty damn good, if I had to say.
I just love, I mean, of course, again, you get to pick your character's personality throughout the book, but I just truly, I love so much how I feel like you could kind of see what was the person that was under who Ellie was in chapter 1 from the beginning. Because, like, from the beginning, she has, like, some really good one-liners. She's, like, very smart, very sassy. And, like, as the book goes on, you start to see her becoming smarter, sassier. Like, if you pick those options, of course. But it was so good. I loved her. I loved the things that she would say to people. Like, she would just call some people out. She was harsh. I loved it. I loved every second of it. I am waiting for any news about Ride or Die 2. I will cry when they finally make an announcement, and that's those are my feelings. I might try to tape an episode specifically about Ride or Die just because I feel like it deserves it. But that's all I have to say. Do you have any final thoughts?
More like a question, I guess. Do you think...
Okay.
So, at the end of High School Stories Class Act, the first book, we like, I think it was either a little bit over a month, a little bit less than a month, we got the second book. I know you probably hope for, you know, Ride or Die 2 to come quickly, but if you were to guess, how long do you think you're going to have to wait for the second book?
I think it's going to be a while, man. To be honest, I still have that theory that the end was rewritten. I have a theory. I believe in it. And also, I think probably the writing team was, like, surprised that people liked it because of how much hate it was getting in the beginning. So I think them making it a book that could have a sequel was kind of I wouldn't say last minute, but definitely was, like, later on down the line of the development of the book. I don't think it was intended to be a book 2. And you know what? I would prefer that it take longer because I want them to take their time. Like, it would be so disappointing to get book 2 after a book that is so good, and then it's bad because they're rushing it out for, like, content or to get money. You know what I mean?
Of course.
I actually don't want it to come out next month. I want to sit in these feelings of hurt that they've put me in, and I want to cry, and I want to think about the story, and I want them to take their time. Not too much time, you know, not like fucking Hero that I've heard has been on hiatus for a year. But I want them to take their time, make sure that the sequel makes sense. I'm very nervous for the sequel. I'm excited, but cautious. That's how I feel.
I think yeah, I hope they take their time with it because the first book, like since now we finished it all, it was really a well-written book. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Luke is the only one that actually was writing for the book, if I'm not mistaken.
It was very confusing as to I don't know. Like, I feel like they don't give proper credit to who's writing the book.
Yeah.
Because someone said that he was like the head writer of Ride or Die, which made me believe that there were other writers. But then I don't know. I don't know. But he's also writing like Open Heart and stuff right now. So
I don't know. He's writing a good amount of like good books, you know. So he's
oh my god,
he's definitely
I'm
doing
starting
good.
a hashtag give Luke a pay raise because shit, if I need to buy 60 diamonds right now to fund that, I will. Because I need more books like this. Because I have never purchased keys, diamonds, anything from this fucking app. And guess what? I'm replaying this book and I purchased both of those things. So Luke is like the only reason why this app is getting my money. So obviously you all need to put him in charge of more books so you can get more money for me, and that's how you get more revenue, is my thought. Cool. I think we finished up Ride or Die.
Yep.
All right. Cool. So we're closing out the spoilers for Ride or Die. Very much looking forward to the next book. And we're coming on our last book. Oh my god, we're coming on spoilers for the Elementalists. Chapter 8, called Shaky Ground. Our main character's default name is Eli Russell. So we're gonna call them Eli. A little disappointed with this chapter. I don't feel like there's a lot of plot. It's just like a lot of fillers I didn't really care about. We had that diamond scene with Beckett, and then you can help out Griffin, which I don't care. I don't care about scholarship, I'm gonna be honest. This book picks up on you just absolutely annihilating Atlas. With their blood magic, you just cut straight through their side. So that's a whole plot point about, like, Eli not being able to control their magic, because all this weird stuff is going on with, like, the sources of each magic, and you can't control it, and that's just a continuing thing. Atlas ends up being okay. And then as soon as Atlas can talk again after being healed, they immediately yell at you for wanting to learn more about your mother. I'm tired of it. I'm really sick of it. I don't think Atlas has a right to be angry about or at Eli for being curious about their mom. I understand their feelings of resentment, but also I just think it's too much. It's a really drawn out conflict that I'm getting bored of pretty quickly. She seems pretty obsessed with the fact that you care about your mom so much, and I'm over it, to be honest. Do you think that Atlas is justified in being angry about this, especially as often as they're being?
Not really. Like, I understand where, like, Eli is coming from, like, wanting to learn more about, you know, his mom, obviously, because, you know, he doesn't basically know anything. But, and I understand where Atlas is coming from with wanting to focus on the main mission, which is to find Gamma. It's like 50-50. I understand where both sides are coming from. I think Atlas is more on the dramatic side about it. I think he's just drawing to conclusions right away by thinking like their mom doesn't care about them when there could just be like this other big reason as to why, but
Yeah, maybe it's because she's a fucking source of magic and she had
yeah,
shit to
she
handle.
has priorities, you know, so
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I understand why Atlas is mad because you have to think like the two characters came up from very different upbringings. Like Eli never really had to deal with the responsibilities that Atlas had to. Like they got to live like a very like sheltered life, very normal human life up until like a year ago, right? Whereas Alice has been training their entire life to be like the person who saves the world and all this stuff. So I think Atlas was probably like, why the fuck isn't my mom here right now to help me do this?
Yeah.
Whereas Eli like didn't know anything. They had parents. They never felt the true void of not having a mom or dad. Whereas Atlas didn't really have that connection with their adoptive parents. So I understand. I just feel like it's being hammered in like a little bit too much. Also, I don't really understand. I don't understand the thought that like Eli wanting to know more about their mom is impacting the overall quest because we really haven't accomplished that much.
Yeah.
So I don't really see how looking for Gemma means that you can't. I don't know if Atlas knows this, but you can care about more than one thing at one time. You can multitask.
Maybe he might not know that though, because like in book one, he's literally just trying to, protect you and just make sure you're not in danger. So like that's like his main focus, but you never know.
I guess that's fair. That's fair. But Atlas never really had a fair chance at like thinking about anything else. Yeah, I'm excited for this plot to end. I'm not saying that Atlas doesn't have a right to be upset. I just think that like how much of the book, how much of this chapter that conflict took up, I'm over it. Like I feel it's fine for you to be upset, but also like I don't need to hear about it every 30 seconds. It was just hammered in like a little bit too much for my taste. There's also that scene with Griffin. The only thing I really took of note is that there's another morality choice, and whether you help Griffin or sabotage Amy. What did you pick?
I chose to sabotage.
Oh, oh, I was not expecting that.
That's where we're going, baby.
Tell me why.
Um, I don't know. I just didn't like. I felt like since I was choosing that choice, like nothing bad was gonna happen on my end anyways, and I wanted the best for Griffin. Like I don't have any sort of like affection or like intimate like relationship with him or whatnot. I just think he's a
You
cool
don't want to bang
character.
him,
Yeah. But I don't know. I just wanted to help out my man.
right? Your boy,
Exactly.
your bro. Um, I picked Help Griffin, but I think I only picked it because I was afraid that if I sabotage Amy, that someone would find out, and I wasn't prepared to deal with someone being like, "Why did you do that?"
Yeah.
Um, Overall, how do you feel about this morality like element mechanic to the game? Do you think it's meaningful at all?
I think it's going to be meaningful, but the thing is like I just don't know like what kind of impact is this really gonna have at the end.
I'm hoping it builds into something that's meaningful. I was just a little bit disappointed last chapter because in the previous chapter, like right towards the end, where Atlas is like confronting you, I have good morality. So the first time that I had to control my magic, it like prevented me from attacking Atlas. But in the end, you still hurt them anyways. So it just like I don't like choices like that where it's like, oh, your choices can affect this, but then it ends up happening anyways. Like to me, I was just like, well, what's the fucking point? Like, what was the point of me picking like the good guy options if I'm still gonna hurt Atlas?
Yeah.
I understand why they had to do. I understand why they had to do it because they had to really hammer in the point of like you not being able to control your magic and how dangerous that can be. But I just also feel like you did not have to throw the morality thing in there if it wasn't gonna make a difference. And so at the very end of the book is or very end of the chapter, there is another letter that you get from Zane asking you to meet him in exchange for info about your mom. So that's kind of a teaser for the next chapter. Think this is a good idea or a bad idea?
His name's Kane, but yeah.
Oh, Kane?
Yeah, you're good. You've been doing perfect, so. But yeah, it's
I've been doing great. You know what? It's 11 p.m. Cut me some slack.
I will. Um, I think I don't know, 'cause like his character is so like awesome to me. Like I like him so much because he's just like this guy. Like obviously he's portrayed as like this bad person, and he ultimately is gonna be this bad person that we're gonna have to stop. Which to me sucks because I like his character because he just seems so happy and he's just like strolling around, but he's also like causing destruction. Like I don't know. I think I like him just because he's treating our main character so nice compared to everyone else. But I think it's a good idea because if you treat him respectively, he's gonna like the game takes note of that. So then like it is gonna have like some sort of aftermath effect. So
Yeah, I saw this theory online somewhere saying that someone said that the morality kind of game mechanic is going to kick in whenever you have to like pick who to side with. So someone suspected that if you pick all of the evil options, you're going to be on the side of Cain and you're going to try to like help him live on Earth rather than entrapping him. And if you pick all the good options, you'll be on the side of like all of the other sources of magic trying to trap him. I don't know if it'll be that dramatic. Because typically what we see with choices is that, like, I mean, of course you can pick certain options, but ultimately it doesn't really affect the story that much. So I would be surprised to see that, to see such like a drastic difference. But I don't
yeah,
know, maybe.
it really depends though if whether or not they're gonna be doing like a book three, I guess. It
Yeah.
just really depends on like the direction and like how influential that morality thing's gonna be.
Yep, I agree. Do you have any other finishing thoughts about the Elementalist?
Uh, I'm just very excited to actually have a chapter, what seems like going to be dedicated to Kane, so then we can learn more about him and just be around him more. Because, like I said, I like his character.
All right, cool. Like I said, I feel like this chapter was more of like a filler one, so I don't really have that much else to contribute other than what we already commented on. So we reached the end of the spoilers, not only for the Elementalists, but just for this podcast in general. So that's the end of our first episode.
Let's go,
Clap
baby!
it out. Yeah, clap it out. Yes.
Let's go!
See, that was the clap that I wanted in the
beginning. I know. I remembered. I'm glad I got to redeem myself.
Okay, cool. So we finished our very first episode. If you made it to the end, congrats. Thanks for sticking through with us. Kyle, thanks for sticking through with me. Not only during recording, but through like the various hours of equipment and program testing we had to do for this.
Of course.
Please be sure to go to playchoicespodcast.tumblr.com. The link is in the description, also in the background cover of the YouTube video this is going on. It's there you'll be able to find not only our show notes, but also notes for every episode and our socials, which is primarily Twitter. So make sure you go to that link. Make sure you follow us on Twitter so we can give you updates about when the next episode is coming up. If you have any questions, theories, comments, or really just like any thoughts you want to share with us, you can email us at playchoicespodcast@gmail.com and we'll try to respond to them in our next episode. And that's it. Cool. Thanks. That's all I got. It's 11 o'clock. Game of Thrones is coming on tonight, so I'm ending it here. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.